republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight our meeting consists of two separate meetings. First, we will conduct a brief official action meeting when personnel matters will be presented. I will add that there was a brief meeting that this board had before this evening to meet our the principles that we are about to vote on this evening. So again, there was a meeting preceding tonight's public meeting. The second part is our regularly scheduled work session where the long-range plan will be presented. Questions and comments by members of the audience will be limited to those topics on the agenda for this meeting. This meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during tonight's meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board come to the microphone and state their name and address. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments to no more than 3 minutes. This limit will permit time for all of those who wish to speak to the board. Whenever members of the audience exceed this time limit, the board president may ask the individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker. Again, I will repeat that tonight we will have two separate meetings. I just want to make a few comments about our second meeting, the work session. The first thing I'd like to say is that all board members, to the best of my knowledge, have received their long-range plans on Friday, late Friday afternoon. The reason I say that is so that the audience does realize that even the board members sitting here tonight have not had much time to review this long-range plan. Again, we just received it on Friday. So what I would like to happen tonight is that we would all be very kind and courteous to the presenters tonight, because they are here giving their time to present the long-range plan, their portion. And really, I'd ask that we would, if we could, save questions. We will be having some later meetings. There will be a lot to digest tonight. There will be a lot presented. And I know board members will have questions as we go along, but I will say to the public that we will tonight, before we leave tonight, this board will work on some other dates in September that we can pull together a few more meetings. We know that we will need some more meetings before we will be ready to submit this plan to the state. So again, I would call tonight more of a presentation night, a night to digest some things and to listen. And I just ask that you would all keep in the back of your minds that we will have some more meetings to address this long-range plan. So now I'd ask you to turn to the tape BA1, and we will begin tonight with an action agenda. And this action agenda is for approval for personnel matters. But as in any action agenda, we do have an audience of citizens, and I would ask, though, that tonight you limit any questions that you would have in regards to tonight's appointments. So are there any questions or comments from the audience on the action agenda for what you see in front of you in regards to personnel matters? Thank you very much. Now I'll move on to item number 2, our superintendent's report, and I'll turn this portion over to Dr. Bose.
Mr. President and members of the board and guests, I am pleased to recommend this evening 2 key appointments for elementary principalship positions vacated by the predecessor's resignations to take jobs elsewhere. The first one is to recommend that you approve the appointment of Mr. Larry Feely as principal at Knapp Elementary School at an annual salary of $72,000 effective August 12th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Krieger, second by Mrs. Mengel. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And now I'm pleased to recommend that you approve the appointment of Mrs. Nancy Donahue as principal at Walton Farm Elementary School at a annual salary of $74,000 effective August 19th.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. Mengel, second by Mr. Schilling. Questions or comments?
One quick question. Dr. Bose, were we not going to move to have the resignation prior, or did you feel that was irrelevant?
No, you are right, Mrs. Shear.
Accept the resignation prior to the...
We probably should lean on Mr. Bartle now to give us a view. Mr. Bartle, Mrs. Kemmer's resignation is on the agenda. It appears later. should we act on it first before we make an appointment to the same position?
I would say that would be preferable to act on the resignation first.
Then if you would all turn to page B, A5, thank you.
Just hold it.
Now, we have a move and a second, so we're simply suspending those until we,
I would ask the board members that made the motion and the second to withdraw the motion and the second. If that's agreeable, we can move.
I'll withdraw.
thank you for helping put our house in order. And now I recommend that you, in fact, I'd recommend you approve both professional staff resignations, one of which is Mary Ann Kemmers.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mosby, second by Mr. Schilling. Or, you not ready? You move the same? Okay, sure. Motion made by Mr. Mosby, second by Mr. Schilling. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And now, in the proper order, I recommend that you consider the appointment of Mrs. Nancy Donahue for the vacant position of Walton Elementary School Principal.
So moved.
Motion made by Mrs. Scher, second by Mrs. Mengel.
That's fine.
Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And may I indulge the board with its permission and ask Mr. Feely and his family, I think, who are here, and Mrs. Donahue to rise and be recognized. Thank you. I would recommend the board approve 11 professional appointments, beginning on page BA1 through page BA2.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mosey,
Second.
second by Ms. Mengel. Questions or comments on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I would point your attention to page BA3, and I will ask you to delete the name of Lynch, who will not be taking this position as it was offered, so you will not be voting on Elizabeth Lynch. With that corrected page then, I am recommending your approval of 15 support staff appointments, beginning on page BA3 and finishing at the bottom of page BA4.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Krieger, second by Mrs. Scher. Questions or comments on the motion?
Quick question, Dr. Bose. Why are we removing Elizabeth Lane?
She declined the position after it was offered to her.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain, Mr. Clemens, from that block of votes.
Motion carried.
Directing your,
Just,
Abstain.
we need to get a form from Ken.
Right. Right.
directing your attention to page BA5 and recommending that you accept the retirement resignation of one support staff member.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mosey, seconded by Mr. Schilling. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And directing your attention to the bottom third of page BA5, support staff. There are 3 resignations of support staff members presented for your approval.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mosey.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Krieger. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Now to agenda page BA6, salary corrections for those professional personnel as noted on and contained on page BA6 are recommended for your approval.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mosey. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Schilling. Questions or comments?
Question, Mr. Clemens. Second name on that list, Dr. Miller, looks like a decrease from 2. Is that transposed or is that accurate?
It is correct. There was a mistake in the counting of credits, which changed her status on the salary scale.
Okay. Is this an employee was with us
Yes.
previously?
Yes.
Is there retroactivity credits? I mean, is there retroactivity in correcting?
This is for this coming year only.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I have a question
Question.
and follow up? And this is one I was bringing in with me, June. I'd like to ask that even though the school year is beginning in September, our professional staff actually begins paid through a 12-month pay schedule, which would have taken effect July 1. Is it accurate that this is effective only as of September 3rd? Or does it not affect their pay from the beginning of the new payment year?
Our professional staff begin being paid in September. They're not 12-month employees,
I know they're not 12-month, but we prorate out
but that would be
their income.
that
So
would
you're
be-
saying, though, it's perfectly okay in our record keeping
Yes.
that this takes effect
Correct.
as of September?
That's correct.
Okay. Because
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I recommend that you approve the changes in salary for 7 support staff, beginning at the bottom of page BA6 through page BA7.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Mrs. Mengel, seconded by Mr. Mosey. Questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
I have no further business, Mr. President.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just a comment, Mr. Clemens. I really appreciate Dr. Miller putting together the bios that we're getting on a regular basis now, and I think it's good for the community and audience to get these bios also, so they see the quality of people that this board's hiring. Thank you.
Shall I move to close the action meeting?
Sure. Motion by Mrs. Scher.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Krieger to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Okay, now. Does anybody need a break, or can we? I think we're gonna rearrange a little.
Yep.
So we will take about a 2-minute break, and we'll get started again before 8 o'clock. Thank you. It is now 8 o'clock, and we will move on to our board work session. And again, tonight's work session, we will cover one topic, the North Penn Long Range Plan. I'd like to thank Dr. Bose, first of all, for bringing it to the forefront for this board to get to work on this plan, something that's needed to be done. And Dr. Bose spearheading, with more spearheading by Dr. Mangano. It's their meeting tonight. I'm going to step aside. Saying that, I will turn it over to Dr. Bose and Dr. Mangano.
Well, thank you, Mr. Clemens. I guess I should feel like a spear carrier. And I'm reminded that of the phrase from The Tale of Two Cities about the best of times and the worst of times. There's probably never a good time to present a plan that's a product of a government requirement. On the other hand, there's probably never a bad time to consider the future of something as important as a school district, which has a responsibility to educate a growing student population, now projected to be about 12,600 or 700. And so, borrowing that phrase, perhaps it's the best of times and the worst of times, but we have an obligation that has been imposed by a combination of Pennsylvania law and rules and regulations from the State Department of Education of all school districts in the state to adopt a long-range plan or a strategic plan. Now, in North Penn, we're using those references as synonyms. We don't quibble, or we're not going to argue about the difference. We know our plan looks 6 years into the future and sets some targets that may be impossible or maybe not practical, but may be worthy of our consideration. And that is, after all a plan can be. Think of all those people who wanted to own a Cadillac before they were 40 years old, or wanted to be a millionaire before 50, or wanted to retire without ever another worry in the world. Those are plans worthy of dreaming about. They don't always happen in the real world. So we're not deluded by this plan in such a way as we lose touch with reality. At the same time, though, we're willing to risk considering the possibilities that the plan presents and the dreams and the aspirations of over 270 people, volunteers from the staff and volunteers from the community who participated in developing this proposed plan. And so you know now, in these words of introduction, that we're doing this as a response to a requirement under law. We've started late, as most of you probably know. Had we started in the cycle that the State Department of Education had identified for us, we would have started in 1992. Well, we didn't, for a variety of reasons, maybe good, maybe bad, but the reality was we didn't. And when we came to face the reality that we are obligated under these same legal requirements to develop a plan that is due in Harrisburg for approval in September, we knew we had a short amount of time. In fact, we had 8 months to do that. So what you're going to hear about tonight and what you're going to have the opportunity to study in the next month are the dreams, aspirations, and the interests and preferences of all those who joined as volunteers to give shape and form to this plan. This is the first public presentation, though a lot of you who have worked on it on individual parts of the plan are quite familiar with it. This may be the first time all of you, including the board, have seen it or will have seen it in its entirety. I've kidded Sandy Mangano by calling her a midwife, and I've suggested tonight is the birth, and I further suggest that she will do very well in her role as midwife to this plan. Tonight we'll present brief reports directly from those who participated in the detailed part of the plan. We'll have a public review and study for 1 month. Sandy will tell you more of that detail. I simply want to include in my introduction. The board will consider other meetings to discuss it, because you can't expect people who have received something that is close to a 3 or 4 pound document to know it in 3 days. So the board also will study it. But we'll position the board to make a decision on a plan for presentation to Harrisburg on the 19th of September, when the board would conduct its normal monthly business meeting. So that's the target. If we have to make adjustments along the way, I believe we'll find the flexibility to do that. And now, without any further delay in this introduction, let me introduce to you Dr. Sandra Mangano and tell you that she has already, in conversations with me, said that she would be available to anyone individually or in groups who want to meet with her, having the opportunity to hear about the plan or come into the Education Service Center and study the plan at your own leisure, and then follow up with a conversation with Dr. Mangano. She would be willing to schedule such either individually or in groups if you contact her. And now let me thank her personally for the leadership role she gave in guiding all of us, including over 270 volunteers, in developing this draft and presenting this plan this evening. She will now introduce those who will make individual reports, as well as tell you more about the procedures used to get to where we are now, ready to give birth. Dr. Mangano.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. When we started this plan, I think you announced that I was going to be a shepherd.
Shepherd.
Now I've gone from shepherd to
Shepherd to
midwife, and I knew there was a reason why I wanted to join the spa, so I can give birth to this project that we've been working on so long and so hard on. And thank you very much for your comments, and thank you very much for allowing me to rearrange the room, board members. And I know that we like to sit in certain spots, and this is important that we do this, we get off the center just for this evening. Actually, I was going to give a test to the board members and hoping that they would be able to tell us what they had read from giving this, because some of you who knew me when I was teaching at the high school and were there when I was giving assignments knew that I would often give an assignment on a Friday in length and say, there's going to be a test on Monday. And so Tom and Donna, I could very well, but I'll be good. I'll be gracious tonight and not do that.
It's open book, right?
You do have time. You do have time. This is going to be a very interesting way in which we're going to present this for you tonight. And because I like to let that teacher in me come out, I'm going to stand up as I talk as the presenters in terms of unveiling a lot of what we're talking about tonight. The presentation of the long-range plan has been something that we've been working on. Actually, I started in October, began looking at ways in which we could present this, ways in which we could do this. The board officially, as you know, approved my appointment in January, and from then on, we've been on a fast train moving forward. And as people who have worked with me know that there wasn't any time for any lag or detours. We had to stay on task, and we had to stay focused. I'm going to go into some background, because I think part of understanding the plan and understanding what we're presenting tonight is a little bit of the background to help you understand how we got to where we are today. What is the reasoning behind the plan that is being presented? Because this plan is being presented in earnest. It's being presented with a lot of thought, a lot of research, a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussion, a lot of debate, a lot of looking at the needs of the district and trying to ascertain where are we, where should we be going. And it is a full complement of a lot of detail. Before I actually go into this, there's one person in the audience that I want to take time out to thank. And this is an individual who is my right arm, my left arm, my eyes, my ears. She thinks inside my head. She has thought for many of us. She has provided for many of us the answers, the direction, the leadership, and the public document that is this document is her design. It's her creation. This is learning technology on-the-spot training. And this is a wonderful document. I think the nicest compliment that I got this week when someone came in to me to get one, they said, "And how much did you spend for that?" And I said, "We did it in-house." And they said, "You really did this in-house?" And I said, "Yes, we did. And it only cost us $150 for the paper to run it." But it wasn't without the training and the technique and the interest that my secretary, Tina Durkash, gave to this entire project. She took on the role. Tina. Thank you very much. Appreciate it all. Okay, we're on a roll here. We're going to look at the long-range plan. As with any plan, we need to make sure that people are informed. One of the things that's most important is that the CEO announces to the world, to the board, to the community, that the plan is going to be unveiled, and that's really what we're about tonight. When we look at the plan, we also have to realize that there are some questions. It's the, okay, now what? You know, where do we go next? What is the next role that we take? How do we implement it? How do we even get it passed? And so we look at the question, how? We're going to be talking about that tonight in terms of what that means for us. I would like to start by reflecting a little bit, and again, I can't go into a presentation without giving you some meat to think about besides just what is in this plan and document. For you to understand it, you really need to know and understand what is happening nationally, what is happening to our school district, what is happening to all of us as we begin to look at the issues that are involving reform and restructuring. And so I want to take a moment to really touch base with you to help you understand that there are some things that are important. The plain truth is this, folks. Our schools are as good as they used to be, but they're not as good as they need to be. And that's the direction that our teams took. What do we need to do to make sure that our plan allows our school to get where we need to be? And that is the plain truth. When you look at this, it's important for us to realize that there is some data that is out there that shows some very conflicting things. A lot of times people tend to look at our schools and they say everything is wrong with them and that we need to fix everything. Well, that really isn't the truth. The plain truth is, based on a research study that was done covering the years from 1900 to 1995, looking at all of the eras of education, the plain truth is that within our schools across the country, we have some very significant things that are occurring. We can see that basic achievement scores are up, AP courses are, more people are taking them, SATs are up, ACTs are up. All of these issues that are here reflected for you to view are very much a part of the reality of what's happening in education today. Our planning teams looked at all of these pieces. We wanted to make sure we knew, because we wanted to look at the truth. Our schools are good, and we need to make them better. What do we need to do to accomplish that? And that was the task that we undertook. The issues that you see up here, these are the issues that are confronting education nationally today. We're looking at changes in the workforce. We're looking at changes in social economic pressures. We're looking at international competition. We're looking at people who are saying that education is exclusive in terms of the liberal arts. We're looking at issues that talk about disconnectedness, academic content. What does that mean? It doesn't have any relevance or interrelationship. We're looking at manipulation of things, and people don't understand what that manipulation of things is. And we're also looking at sit and get resuscitation, that we're having to teach kids from a perspective where they sit and get it, kind of like I'm doing with you right now. I'm expecting you to sit and get what I'm explaining, and I probably, that's not the best model, but the only way that I can help you understand the background to what we used to get to this point. There's a very important critical issue, and that is our students. Reflecting on what our students need. Our students need to think critically. They need to integrate and demonstrate knowledge. They need to be able to analyze, and they need to be able to participate cooperatively. It's a very important concept that we find in education. It's one called cooperative learning, one that we have used in our district for a long time. There's a real tug of war. Our volunteers, our committees really struggled with this tug of war. What does it mean for us? Should our schools be places of teaching, or should they be places of learning? What then would be the organizational structure that we would have to put in place in order for us to participate in real learning for students? What are the beliefs? What are the values? And what are the assumptions? If you look at the history of education over the years, you'll know that it has changed tremendously. Some of us are old enough to know what has happened from the 70s to now, and even before, how education has changed and shifted gears to periods of time. Probably if I were to select a period of time that most of us can really remember well in education between 1940 and 1970, there was a real emphasis on colleges and what colleges wanted to get students into their systems. And so the pressure on the schools came from what the colleges wanted. And that was followed by what we all know as the nation of risk. And that was the real blow to those of us in education, because it said that we really need to have to reflect on what was happening to us, to our kids, and to our students. Well, real learning takes on a philosophical perspective that I think every person that I came across on all of the work that we did had, that all children can learn. Not just a few, all children can learn, and they can learn beyond the current expectations. You can reframe those expectations. You can reframe the time and the teaching methods and the learning styles. And we need to eliminate the obstacles that impede learning that students have. The curriculum content not having it so, not connected for our students, making it integrated, making it relevant, and making mastery of the content assessed in many ways. When we look at that, we realize that we have to really reinforce what learning is all about, and we need to have the structures in place that are going to help us get to that. You're going to hear from our team presenters tonight talk about standards-based system, standards of expectation that we have for our students. You're going to hear the term benchmarks, so that we can say that when students go through a certain number of grades, we can give them a measurement to help us understand that they have successfully mastered and be able to use the material that we have provided for them. We're going to be talking about thematic and integrated curriculum, because that's really what it is for students today. It's not things in isolation, it is connectedness. We're looking at graduation contingent upon demonstration of knowledge and skills, and measurement of success, and of course technology being a very integral part of all of that. When you look at those structures, in order to help us understand, the educational implications are such that we have to really frame our thinking. If we're going to understand what this plan that's being presented tonight is all about, it is about learning for children in the North Penn School District. It's providing for us a framework where we're trying to give our kids all the necessary skills that are going to help them compete in the 21st century. And that's the biggest chore that is ahead, and that was the chore that was ahead of every team member. Learning is the only option, not just teaching, but learning, children learning, and that the paths that we provide for them are going to be available for them so that they're going to be successful. And the results of their learning is the measure of our teaching quality, that we can say that we have utilized the best of what we can give as teachers and educators to give that to our students, and we're focusing on meeting student needs and all student needs. Well, the aim of a long-range plan is to provide a better roadmap. That's what we have done. We have provided for the district a plan that has a focus, it has a direction, it is adaptable, it is flexible, but it is a roadmap. It sets some parameters for how we need to function, ways in which we need to go. It provides for the district a purpose. Interestingly enough, I've been here since 1971. We have not had any such birth before. We have not had any such plan before. Something that has a continuum from beginning to end, which shows a direction and is integrated, that integrates so many facets of what this district is all about. Last week, if I can just diverge for just a moment, Dick Scherato, who is the chief advisor from the state, who will be coming to review our plan, came down and he said he was so impressed with what these people have put together for you, the board, for the community. And the reason he said he was so impressed was that very few school districts across the Commonwealth looked at the total picture of their school. He had not found, maybe in one or two different long-range strategic plans, a component for facilities, and most important, a component for finance. Most of the long-range strategic plans left that out. So they came in with the pie in the sky, let's go after it all, without a reality check of what really can be possible. That was one of the most important things that our planning team said that we were going to have in place if we were in fact going to move ahead. The long-range plan began in January, as you know. We began with beliefs, we began with values, purposes, expectations. The standards that the state is looking at are in the process of being changed. I need to tell you that very honestly, that the standards right now are being looked at and are going to be elevated to a different level, particularly in the area of English and reading and writing and science and math. But those are going to be baseline. And I will probably guarantee you that North Penn is already ahead of those baseline operation. That's going to be the minimum of which schools are going to have to go for. And we're going to go for the gold, if we can use a pun from watching all of the Olympics that we did. All of our long-range plan, there are advantages in doing it. It's a wonderful process of really looking at function and purpose. The planning team, the 45-member planning team, and many of you are here tonight, worked so hard with a data book. This is a data book. This book, they were given the first time that we met. It contains a lot of information about the North Penn School District. You can't go to begin even thinking about a long-range plan unless you look at the data. You have to look at where we are to know the direction of where we're going. And so we did provide everybody with a data book. We need to establish the boundaries in which the district will operate. That is what is in this plan. It is a boundary. It is a parameter. If you look at the parameters that the planning team put in place, they were very strict parameters in terms of what would be and would not be accepted by the planning team, which scrutinized these plans many times over before this board and this community has had an opportunity to look at the plan. The long-range plan is accountability. It's a factor by which we look at our resources. What do we have available that we can use, not only within the school but within the community? And we found out that we have a tremendous resource bank of people in this community and in this school. And if we look at the people whose names are on the volunteer list, you can see from their backgrounds of experiences what they have given to us, especially if you know them. It's a way to evaluate our institution. It's a way to say, what are we doing good and what way can we do better? And I think probably one of the most important notes on this, it reestablishes credibility, creativity, and dedication among everybody who has worked so hard. The process has been intense. I have made periodic reports to the board, and I have shared with the board and the community the way that we've approached this. We've collected data. We've had a steering committee. We've had 4 of our board members participate actively either on the planning team or on the steering committee. Other board members have chosen to be a part of planning teams. We have had very active involvement. So I really could give that test, but I won't. We formed planning teams. The planning teams were at the direction of the planning committee. They were the ones that evaluated and said, these are the areas that we need to look at as we begin to develop the long-range plans. We're at the point where we're looking at presenting the plans to the planning committee, the final draft, presenting it to the board, and presenting it to the community. We're hoping for board approval, keeping in mind that this is a plan. It is a plan that sets the framework for where this district can go in the next 6 years. And the financial piece, I think, is something that when Dennis and his committee give that report, I think you're going to be very surprised, because I think there was great expectation that this was going to cost zillions of dollars and something absolutely out of sight that we can't afford. But it isn't that. And we're hoping to obtain that board approval and submit the plan to the state. Once we submit the plan to the state on September 30th, there is 1 month after that we have to wait for the board to have, and I believe it's the board members, president, vice president, and selected members of the board, the community, Dr. Bose, myself, will be meeting with Dr. Sciarretto and a team that will be coming down from Harrisburg. And we will have to substantiate the things that are in this plan. That will take place in October. Not only does the school board have to approve it, but the state has to approve it. And then we have to begin the implementation phase. Next year is the year that we have to do the hard work of trying to implement at different stages. It's the year of the committee, so that we can get the committees to really look in detail of how we can implement the particular parts of the plan that we need to. It has been comprehensive planning. It is results and accomplishment oriented. It has placed individual performance at the success. It is precise. It is rigorous. It has emphasized learners' current and future success, and it focuses on the needs of the school and the community. And I guess for those of you who know me well, know that I don't like to do anything unless I know that we're going to do it the right way. We're not going to do it unless we're going to do it completely with the research and the stuff that goes into it. And so do we expect resistance? Of course. We're not naive. We know that there is resistance. We know that there's always resistance to change, any kind of change. In the plan, we have 3 committees where there's actually required changes are going to have to occur. They're going to have to occur in curriculum and instruction. They're going to have to occur in assessment, and they're going to have to occur in staff development. We're building upon what we've got good and putting things in place where we need to make those changes. And the state has mandated that those 3 will be required for all school districts around the Commonwealth. Again, that's curriculum and instruction, assessment, and staff development. As you came in here tonight, you saw our new vision and mission on the entranceway coming in. We worked long and hard and waited long for that to go up. We were very pleased that it arrived on Friday, and it's there, and it is a vision, and it is a mission statement that is future-oriented, and it projects the hope and the energy and the destination for where we're going. A little bit of humor, just to keep you awake. Many school districts sent their people that did this on a retreat, and it cost them a lot of money to do this. They went away for 3 days. Well, we came to the ESC to do our vision, but we did it successfully and very effectively, and we're very happy with the vision that we've got. The mission statement is there. The mission and vision statement appear on our documents and will appear on all of our documents that we go forward with. And as you know, this board approved that vision and mission very early on, which was, again, unprecedented in the way that a lot of school districts have operated. But the way it was done was that was the way in which you wanted the planning teams to function and know how to operate within the scope of that vision and mission that was presented and is available for us. We had a lot of fun. We looked at the ABCs of how to look at the data, how to collect it, how to look at our audience. We had a lot of fun being what I call the SWAT team. We all wore hats one day and decided that we were going to look at a lot of different things. But one of the things we were absolutely insistent on was measurable criteria. You're going to hear this, I'm sure, from the assessment committee presentation tonight and also from the curriculum. I need to tell you that measurable criteria is an extremely difficult concept for people to understand. We found that even within our own understanding that there was a difference between measurable criteria for performance and measurable criteria for compliance. So one of the things that we're going to be working on this year is the difference between what is compliance and what is performance. Our long-range plan, again, looked at what is and what should be. We did a lot of analysis. We did an internal evaluation. We became the SWAT team. We looked at our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. This was a very enlightening part of what was presented to all of us, to look at where we were with what was done in 1991. In 1991, there was a survey that was done in the very initial parts of what was projected to be some long-range thinking for the district. And that survey had 42 questions on it. It was randomly given to 384 participants in 95% confidence level. And we looked at that survey and we said, okay, where are we now in 1996? Where were we in 1991? And what has changed? And we came up with a lot of things that help us really identify things like our strengths in our school district. Are we a good school district? Yes, we are a good school district. Can we be better? Yes, we can. And we looked at these strengths and we said, a lot of this is very important to all of us. How can we build on these strengths and make these strengths better?
We also looked at the fact that we had weaknesses. Anybody doing an analysis has to really look critical. It can't all be good. There has to be some things that are weak, things that need to be improved on. And so we looked at that. We looked at ways in which we might, again, attack the weaknesses in the district and try to put a focus on ways in which we can handle what was the perception of a weakness, because what happens is perceptions become reality. We looked at the opportunities. We need to have the resources to do the things we want to do. Therefore, what are the opportunities that are out there for us? What kinds of things can we utilize, can we gravitate to, so that we can, in fact, do the kinds of things that we want to do for our community and, most importantly, for our students, because we're really all about students. Threats, that was another thing. There are threats to a district. There's threats to education. And we need to look at that. We need to face those up front and honestly, so that we were proactive in being able to handle those things that would affect where this district is going in the next 6 years. With that in mind, we began the policies, and we have, hopefully tonight, going to unveil the plan with a lot of pomp and ceremony, pomp and circumstance. If we had the band here, I would hope the band would be playing for us. But it's a great plan. It's been a great job from a lot of people. And as each of these individuals tonight begin to share the particular specifics of their plan and giving you an overview of it, I hope you will honor their commitment and recognize that their work has been invaluable to this district and to this community. And I need to thank them all very much for all of the work, because it was a wonderful effort. We did a lot of team building. We did a lot of consensus building. We didn't always agree, but we worked hard. And everything that you see in this document is built on consensus, everything in total. And now, without further ado, I would like to start bringing up individually the individuals who are going to present their component part overview of the team report. And first, my very dear friend, Dr. Carol Tarozzi, who graciously chaired the curriculum and instruction. Carol?
Thank you, Sandy, and good evening, everyone. I am representing here the Curriculum and Instruction Action Team, and I'm very pleased to represent them. They were a wonderful team with which we spent many long hours working together, and it's really a credit to them because many of them are here in the audience tonight. And so I want to thank them, and I want to recognize them publicly. When we began our work, we got to work very quickly, and the team decided that they had several areas in which they wanted to focus. The first area was that they wanted to be sure that whatever we did continued to look at curriculum and instruction. Sandy used the expression putting some meat into it, and there were a number of times that the members of our committee talked about we want to put meat into this document. We wanted to make sure that we maintained the minimum standards that we currently have, but go beyond them as well. And so the second order of business was that we wanted to be sure that we identified rigorous academic standards, maintaining those that we currently have, but building on them. The third thing is that we needed to meet the Chapter 5 regulations. As Sandy said, curriculum and instruction has a number of areas that are mandated by the state. And so we referred to this document a number of times so that we were sure that we were trying to be in compliance. And the last thing that this team established very rapidly was that they wanted to establish class size as a priority. And so as you read through our document, you will see that class size comes up on a number of different occasions and in a number of different ways. I am going to work through the document that you have here tonight. I am going to highlight 3 of the 7 strategies with which we worked. We worked with 7. I'm going to highlight the 3 that our team identified as the most critical ones. The very first one, which begins on page 12, is the one that deals with the state's learning expectations. What we established as the very first plan that needs to take place is that we will in fact establish the graduation requirements. Beginning with the 9th grade class in 1997, they will use these new graduation requirements, which means that this academic school year, 96-97, is one in which we must establish what those graduation requirements will be for students in the future for the next 6 years. The second piece that was required is that every student will have some facility with a foreign language other than English or their native tongue. Obviously, this is a very broad-reaching requirement, and so we are recommending to the board that this begin next year as well, that foreign language come up for curriculum review starting next year because it is going to be such an in-depth look that they will need to take. The third piece that is also a state requirement is that every student needs to demonstrate the learning and understanding of the current 53 learning expectations through a graduation project. The state has established certain guidelines for that project, but the way in which it will be developed and made North Penn's own needs to be established also. So that's another piece that needs to become up and running. The fourth piece is that we are to establish benchmark points. Those are points at grades 3, 5, 8, 11, and graduation in which students will be asked to demonstrate their understanding and their knowledge of the learning expectations. And so what we need to do is identify for every curricular area what those learning expectations will be for grades 3, 5, 8, and 11, and ultimately for graduation. And I'm sure assessment will be talking more about that as well. The last piece that we added to this one strategy alone is that we need to look at those students who are going to exceed the learning expectations more rapidly than what we say at certain grades, and those students who are going to have a great deal of difficulty meeting those learning expectations. The state is very clear that time must be given to these students, and so we are recommending that we look at options for enrichment, options for acceleration, and also options for intervention and remediation. Because this needs to be in place, we are again suggesting that much of this begins this academic school year. On page 13, we have two other strategies that are identified. The first one is implementing a plan for respect for the uniqueness of each individual. Our strongest recommendation here is that we continue those programs that we currently have in place, i.e. the guidance program, the diversity task force, and that we expand them so that they can become even stronger. The next strategy is developing a system of goal setting so that students will have personal goals that they will set throughout their academic career. Our recommendation here is that we tie this into the already up and running and very strong Schools to Work program, that we develop career profiles for students. One of the top 3 strategies was strategy 7, which is located on page 14. This is the one that speaks to identifying the body of knowledge and skills essential for all students. This is the crux of what students need to know. This gets into the heart of curriculum, and what we are recommending here is that we return to the Goal 1 process, which has stood the district extremely well, but that we look to establish some consistency among all the curriculum review areas. We are suggesting that there be a curriculum profile for every academic area that is in the district. We're also suggesting that we establish curriculum priorities within the district. And so rather than having a number of different curricular areas moving forward on a variety of topics, that we go for that integrated and connectedness that Sandy was talking about, and we establish the priorities where the district will really focus its efforts and its needs. For every curriculum area, we are suggesting that there be a curriculum strand that includes career, diversity, technology, and universal values. So currently, because reading is up for review, all of those strands would become part of that. And finally, that we establish a core curriculum of essential learnings. Right now, the state is asking us to implement 53 learning expectations. What we think is important is that we look at what is the core of what students need to learn. So that core, if it be problem solving, would be carried through every single curricular area, that we focus on quality rather than quantity with that. The other strategy, which is on page 15, speaks to nurturing, stimulating, and challenging intellectual environment conducive to learning. This is where we establish the class size guidelines. We want to see that they be reviewed and specific limits set upon that. The last time these were reviewed was April 23rd, 1990, and in the big book we have included that whole study for you to see. We are suggesting that those class size guidelines not be exceeded and that we put in certain guidelines in order that they can be accommodated throughout the grades K through 12. When this went to the planning committee, they added the line that we not exceed the guidelines that were established in 1990. This is very important to the committee, and they put a lot of suggestions and time frames into the actual document when you review that. We also think it's important to look at a variety of scheduling options. We don't need to schedule as typically as we have been doing. Build in opportunities in all schools for students to be able to receive recognition. And finally, identify, implement, and monitor the most effective instructional practices so that this be common knowledge among all schools and all grades. Strategy 10, which is the next to the last one that we dealt with, speaks to equal access to curricular and co-curricular experiences. What our main recommendation here is that we establish parity among all schools within different grade level configurations for both curriculum and co-curriculum. And if you look at the needs that Sandy had listed, there were some indicators there that this is one of the areas that we think, or that came forward as being a need. And finally, the last one is communication. It became very clear from our team that parents, community, are very, very anxious to get additional information about curriculum and instruction. One of the suggestions that came forth was perhaps to have a Channel 16 North Penn School District evening news show in order to share some of the curriculum and instruction. The plan that is before you for curriculum and instruction delineates in great depth what I have given you as a very whirlwind tour through this. We realize that our opportunity tonight is to highlight only the most critical and salient elements. There's much more to the plan, and given an opportunity, I too am available to answer any questions from other people. Sandy?
Thanks, Carol. I think if you listen very carefully to all of the parts of this plan, you're going to see there's a lot of integration. We have tried to weave all of the understanding of all of the component parts. And you can't do all of the things that Carol and her committee wanted us to do until we had staff development in place. And so Brenda Habersutter is going to be speaking about staff development.
Thank you, Sandy. Let me first tell you that I am neither one of the co-chairs of the committee. Both Dr. Barbara Burke-Stevenson and Debbie Hightower for the co-chair people of the Staff Development Committee. And luckily for them, and perhaps luckily for me, we'll see how it goes, they both had a scheduled vacation for this evening, so I got to come in and sub. And I am using their presentation, so I have a few crib cards, so forgive me for that. Let me start out by starting that many of you have heard the saying that it takes a village. And this was kind of the approach that the Staff Development Committee used. There really was a sense of a need to have an entire community involved in staff development so that a strong school community equals a strong education community and strong training equals strong teaching. The committee was a diverse committee, as all of them were, and the committee members included 4 community members, 9 teachers, and 2 administrators. And as Carol had mentioned, we also have a number of the committee members in the audience this evening as well, and it's nice to see you here. We truly strove for consensus, as all the groups do when you have a diverse group, and spent a great deal of time looking at the research to start with and beginning there. So keeping that in mind, our focus, or our charge, was to develop a staff development human resources plan which supports the district's strategic plan and supports the recommendations of each action planning team. Staff development, our focus was that it was going to be needs-based and underlying fiscally responsible. As I said earlier, we spent a great deal of time looking at some of the research, and I think we provided for Sandy a notebook about this thick. One of our community members loved to surf the internet and brought tons of material for us to review, and we'd separate and review it and bring it back and review it for the committee. So it really helped us begin to get grounded in what we were going to do. It was real important in terms of our content that it would be need-centered, that we would have an orientation on the group and the individual, that it was growth-focused, that we're really looking at all of staff development to be a part of our lifelong learning focus, and that it would be current and exciting, that it is role-related and developing an understanding for the entire organization, not just what people were doing, that it would be integrated into the curriculum, and that the implementation would be not just in a classroom, but also at the work site, depending on where the need was and depending on where it would be best be provided. One of the major recommendations that the group came up with was to develop a staff development council, and that is described in the plan document. And this staff development council, which would consist of representatives of both administrators, teachers, support staff, community, part of the board of school directors, as well as higher education, would be there to prioritize, develop, oversee, evaluate, and revise on an ongoing basis all the staff development strategies, so that it would continue to be an ongoing loop and evaluated annually and more often as needed. Our primary strategy was strategy 17, which was that we would develop a 6-year plan to accommodate our human resources training and staff development needs, which include recommendations from the action planning teams in order to best support student learning. It's in page 17 of the book. Thank you. If you look, that part of this is to create positions of staff development director and 2 teacher staff developers, that the North Penn School District Staff Development Council would be established, that I just mentioned, that a program of staff development for all instructional staff would be developed and implemented by the Director of Staff Development, the staff developers, and the Staff Development Council, that we would create a comprehensive training program for support staff to enhance their development and skills, that a staff assessment model would be developed so that we're not providing training for people who do not need the training, and that it would be therefore needs-based, that the Human Resources Department will develop a 5-year departmental strategic plan aligned with the North Penn School District's vision and mission and overall strategic plan, that we establish a learning and information network, and that could be a center and accessed in many different ways, and that the district will establish a wellness program for employees that will be designed and implemented. And last but not least on this strategy, that we will communicate the staff development offerings and what we are providing to all staff, parents, and community members. We also took a look at the additional strategies, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time because you can read them for yourself, in terms of the specific results. 17 was our primary focus, and we had 9 results on that. Under Strategy 3, we really felt it was important for all professional staff to have a thorough understanding of the district's student learning expectations, standards of student performance, and transitional benchmarks, and through a turnkey training model supported in the buildings by the principals and building teacher trainers. We also thought that it was important for the community to have shared ownership of the district's visions and mission, that we provide a supportive and nurturing environment and support the different aspects of the strategic plan, and continue to provide that in all areas of strategies. So the prioritization is there. You can read that for yourself, and I do not need to go past that one with you. What we saw is the design and implementation for staff development would come from the Director of Staff Development, the staff developers, and that very large Staff Development Council as a kind of fluid, moving opportunity. And the interest of fiscal responsibility, how would we provide all these training opportunities? Some of it would be provided by early dismissal days, staff development days, in-building models, and continuing that turnkey training, the opportunity to train a series of people who could then go back and train the building people or the particular groups that needed that type of training. So time would not be pull-out time, but would be primarily time that's available. The benefits of the design, as you read through the staff development plan, is that it invites and encourages input that is responsive to the needs. It coordinates efforts. It's documented easily. It's communicated to several audiences. That we hope it creates strong public relations. It's revised and based on evaluations. It interrelates staff development and performance appraisal. It utilizes the expertise of the staff that we have. It provides opportunities for growth, diversified options. It ensures community effort and hopefully bonds the district and the community together in a joint effort of staff development. When Barbara and Debbie were looking at the plans, they reviewed all the different strategic plans and decided that these 7 areas were really areas that overlapped for the other plans, that we would be providing continued accountability, that we would be providing a resource bank for other areas to provide opportunities for them to gain information, that there would be a shared responsibility for students, that there's staff development for all staff across the board, support staff, administrators, as well as the professional staff, that it would utilize the universal values, that it would be developed within the context of everything we're doing in the district, and that we would also create a conflict resolution program. And this is Barbara's ending, and I'll say you got to have heart, and there's many interpretations of that, and some of that is that training is part of the heart of what we're doing in developing our staff so that we can help our students become lifelong learners. Thank you.
I want to take a moment to bring to your attention that term that you keep hearing, universal values. Judy Clark and the Guidance Committee brought before this board, after a lot of work, a document for guidance in this district that embraced universal values, and it has been a part of the effort through the guidance curriculum, and it's part of what we embraced in terms of the long-range plan, that we're not going to just do it in one area, we're going to do it in all areas. And so you'll see the universal values on our vision and mission statement that is out in the lobby, and thanks to Judy and her committee for all that efforts in getting us straight. And now, David Decker for assessment. And naturally, we had to call on someone who was good in statistics and math as our supervisor of math.
Thank you and good evening. I too would like to recognize the work of the committee that spent every evening in February, March, April, and part of May, joining me Monday nights, either across the hall or over here, in spending laborious time in creating the document that we presented to the school board and to you for scrutiny relative to assessment. I'd like to explicitly thank my co-chair, whose name is Cindy Mattis, who had prior commitment in coaching her daughter's soccer team. She's a volunteer that can't be stopped. And among other things, she's doing that and either has come here, I'm not sure if I'm seeing her out there, or is with me in spirit tonight. Assessment was an intriguing committee to be part of to start with. One of the reasons is because, unlike some of the other committees, assessment had the dilemma of being about something, assessing curriculum, but also the possibility of having the obligation of assessing every other component in the school district. So that's one of the issues that we had to deal with as a committee, is how we are going to focus. And so as part of the process, and I'll share some of that with you. As a process, like each of the other committees, we dealt with the 17 strategies that were posed to us, and we developed our own needs, what we intended that assessment should accomplish. And as well, then, we needed to align those things that we came in our predisposition, and we wanted to align those with the strategic plan and the mission and vision that were delivered to us. We needed to develop results as they were called. These are the things that are on page in your handout tonight, on page 21, 22, and 23 for my committee. These things are what we are calling specific results. You may have noticed that the school board members have a considerably thicker package, and I understand that that's available to anyone that requests it. And within that package includes explicit action statements that correspond to these results. This is true for not only my committee, but for all the committees. There you'll see the real guts of what's being proposed in a bit of a summary manner in this document. So the steps we are included are the ones I've made reference to, and finally, in each of the cases, we needed to identify the financial impact. This set of tasks was not uncommon to any one of the groups. One of the things we found out early on when we were reviewing the literature that Carol had mentioned, the Chapter 5 regulations, is that there are 3 committees that are required by the state, of which you are seeing the three presentations from the onset here in tonight's delivery. And they are curriculum and instruction, staff development, and assessment. So we learned through our work that assessment shares that responsibility of being one of the primary requirements in the state procedure. In focusing our work, the committee identified 2 areas where we felt would be appropriate for us, or inappropriate if we didn't, to comment on. And those were specifically, 1, student proficiency, and 2nd, the evaluation of our program. For our purposes of execution, we disassociated these. However, we know that they really have common tasks and are common goals. If you would look on page 21 in the handout, you will see there the first of our strategies, which is strategy number 3 on this page 21, is where we chose to focus on the component of assessment of individual student performance. The other focus for us was the second one listed there. But if you would distinguish between these 2 in spirit, the first of these, the one strategy 3 at the top, lists a number of components that deal with individual student performance. So there you will see such things as where we're establishing an individual assessment system to ensure a variety of techniques will be included. So as Sandy mentioned in her overview of the process, you can expect that assessment will take on a wider range of experiences, and its nature will be widened over the years if we implement the plan according to our recommendations. So the 4 items listed there under the first strategy are all dealing with individual student assessment. The second component, we felt our responsibility being, 1, to report to the public, to report to the school board, to report to the faculty members, to report to the community in general as to the success of our programs. And so our focus in strategy 7, which was the second of these, again on page 21, where it lists three elements which we based our action steps on. Number one, very explicitly says we will seek to determine the success of curricular programs and courses by measuring overall student performance. So part of our plan will be an annual report to the school board where you will see the performance of our students in each one of the curricular areas throughout the grade levels. So our program will involve that kind of accountability where the school board will see that, well, the school board and the public will see the kind of results that have been achieved by our students. One thing that needs to be mentioned relative to our plan, and I suspect to the others, is that much of this has not been accomplished yet. Similar to curriculum and instruction, where the student outcomes need to be identified in grades 3, 5, 8, and 11. The corresponding assessments of those outcomes needs to be developed as well, and these are future tasks. Among the remaining critical issues, we wanted to mention that our system can be advantaged if we have this systematic collection, analysis, and communication of academic data. Only then, if we collect carefully, analyze carefully, and communicate carefully, can we continue to improve our program. Again, to emphasize the fact that you can expect a wider range of assessments in being implemented in classrooms, also a key recommendation. So rather than explicitly list the outcomes, I've chosen to generalize some of the things that will be achieved if this plan is implemented in the way it's suggested. Explicitly, these will be created. 1, student expectations by course and grade level. So not only at grades 3, 5, 8, and 11, but for each course and for each grade level, we will have those sort of things identified. Again, a wider range of assessment techniques will be applied and learned. More academic information for students, parents, teachers about individual student progress. One of our goals, as each of the committees had, was the requirement to deal with a communication issue. In our circumstance, we felt it was very important that parents hear not only what's expected of students, the nature of the assessments being applied, but as well the student level of performance on each of those throughout the system, not only in grades 3, 5, 8, and 11, but throughout the system. So that will manifest itself in some of this, more information about the success of our programs and as well about the success of individual students. We also, among our recommendations, established the combination District Community Review Committee to evaluate the success of the long-range plans. So in this manner, and if you would refer to the document, this is the Strategy 11, I believe it's the next one in sequence, where the success of the long-range plan is the task that's included with the strategy there. This is the assessment of that, and the manner in which it's executed is listed under the details for this circumstance. And finally, more visibility of academic performance throughout the system will certainly be an outcome. In sum, I'd like to refer to the beginning sheet that I put up here. What is measured is value. What gets inspected is expected. The assessment can accomplish these things, and what we believe will be established by the assessment of those things. Thank you.
Technology, Dr. Joe Maglotti. We'll give you the one that we've been waiting for because we know we need to move in a lot of areas of technology.
Thanks, Sandy. I'm a member of the technology planning team, and I'm also a substitute presenter this evening. Lou Nyman had a strategic plan to be on vacation this week, and Ruth Hansen, our co-chair, I believe, was also unavailable. So I was called and graciously accepted to present this to you tonight. The team that I worked on consisted of about 30 people, and it was a great team. I really enjoyed working with them. It included district administrators, teachers, and librarians, a number of technical professionals from the community, as well as parents from the community. This allowed for a diverse, lively, creative discussions coupled with technical reality. It also brought to the meetings a sense of what both educators and parents want the children of the North Penn School District to experience in a technological perspective during their educational career. The educators who represented the elementary and secondary areas gave us a good perspective on the technology for grades K through 12. The technical community members, in conjunction with the district technical staff, demonstrated the ability to bring knowledge and methods from the corporate arena to the committee planning sessions. There were 3 strategies that were developed, 2 of which I believe are in the book on page 24 and 25. The first one was that we were able to develop and implement plans to integrate technology to support and enhance student learning, effective teaching strategies, and administrative functions. The second one is identified to implement technology, programs, and policies which will enhance communication within the district and also to improve communications between the district and the community. That was very important. The third strategy was to develop assessment procedures to assure the attainment of the vision, the mission, and the objectives. To be able to tackle the 3 strategies, the team had to agree on a definition for technology. Whenever the word technology appears in this plan, it means the following. Technology is the application of tools, techniques, knowledge, resources, and systems to support and enhance student learning, effective teaching strategies, administrative functions, and, most importantly, community involvement. The definition did not limit in any way technology to computer hardware and software. Included in the definition, but not all inclusive, are copiers, VCRs, faxes, telephones, and laser discs, and video cameras, things like that. It also does not prohibit the acquisition and use of other current or future technologies. There were 4 basic issues with which the community was concerned. Foremost was the support that a technology plan of this magnitude would receive from the district management and support from the district management and the school board. All members of the team gave a superior effort and did not want to think that the effort would go for naught. In the end, the team had a very positive outlook because of some of the positive feedback that we received from Dr. Bose and other members of the school board. Funding is always a concern of an endeavor of this proportion. The committee realized from the beginning that this effort, the price tag would be large. The committee is hopeful that a creative method can be found to fund the technology plan. The committee also decided to purchase the very latest technology, which also carries the highest price tag, because the district has historically continued to utilize technology well past its useful life. In addition to funding, the committee realized that significant changes must take place in the district buildings to house and maintain the items that are necessary to accomplish the proposed plan. Changes include, but are not limited to, electrical, cooling, space modifications, and space additions. Changes like these are costly and require a great deal of planning, approvals, and time to complete. We have tried to take these changes into consideration when arriving at the budget for the plan. These goals can be accomplished by two things. First, to improve each North Penn graduate's opportunities by enhancing the curriculum by integrating technology where appropriate, and to improve all communications within the district, between the district and the community, and between the district and the outside knowledge resources, such as the internet. To go into some detail, equitable access to technology across the district translates to such things as a computer lab for every 300 children, shared devices such as one camcorder for every 200 children, computers, video capabilities, and internet connectivity in every classroom. Also, the development and implementation of ongoing staff development, the program involving educational and administration staffs, is imperative to maximize the impact that technology can have in the district. For goal number 2, improve the overall communications between the district and the community. Creation and implementation of a technology committee and community members that will discuss the current technology and plan their implementation. A district-wide phone mail system with access from within and outside the district. The design and implementation of a community technology center in each school will allow access to technology to the community during off hours. The district television facilities must provide much more information concerning the use and the availability of technology within the district. Implementing a district-wide network will provide direct communication between schools, teachers, students, community, and administrators. Publish standards and policies regarding the use of technology by teachers, students, and the community will provide a framework with which to develop the district philosophy concerning technology. Now, this is something I haven't seen on the other plans, but is probably on everybody's mind, and that's the costs. The cost of the proposed plan over 6 years totals $25,377,215. This includes an annual recurring cost of $1,072,935 and also $773,660 of annual salaries. And that goes for 30 new full-time positions consisting of a TV specialist, 10 lab technicians, 2 curriculum specialists, and 17 community center monitors. Not too bad. I'm sure it was on everybody's mind. Remember, we're going to be creative in funding. The benefits, there are 4 major benefits. And these are that a North Penn graduate who is more prepared for the competition that he or she will face in the future, a more technologically capable North Penn graduate, the productivity and the effectiveness of the teachers will increase, and the business of managing the district will be performed more efficiently and effectively. Other benefits include consistent and equal access for all students to technology, development of a partnership between the district and the community, improved community and district communication, and fundraising, which should contribute $50,000 in the first year and $100,000 for each of the following 5 years of the plan. And for my last slide, in terms of the priorities, staff development is the highest priority. The implementation of standards and procedures, space and building modifications, because right now some of the facilities, or I should say most of the facilities, are unable to handle probably all of the technology that is looking to be implemented. It involves network cabling, community technology centers, building of laboratories, computer laboratories, and finally, classroom equipment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Do we need to take a break for the change of 30 minutes? Or 30 more minutes? We have 30 more minutes? Okay.
One more.
Okay. We'll go with one more report. Thank you, Joe.
There.
You shouldn't be so overwhelmed by what you've heard from technology. Remember, that's a plan. It's an idea to move us from where we are to where we need to go. And when you hear the financial pieces of all of this put together, I think you'll have a better understanding of how this all impacts. So we'd like to go on to one more presentation, and that is the Diversity Action Team. Rosalind Hopkins.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rosalind Hopkins, and on behalf of myself and Dr. Marian Kimmer, who is on vacation, she's my co-chairperson, I would like to take this opportunity to personally thank Dr. Megano and everyone from the diversity team for all your hard work and all the long hours that you came out and invested coming out in the pouring down rain. And we just like to thank you because we think that this plan is a good one. Our team met every Tuesday for 13 weeks. And through it all, and all of our brainstorming sessions, I was able to observe the passion, interest, and enthusiasm that all of our team members brought to making this plan what we have today. One of our most heated discussions centered around sexual orientation and whether or not to make it a center of concentration. One of our most interesting decisions as a team was deciding which definition to use for diversity. Once our team reached a consensus, we chose diversity is the mosaic of people who bring a variety of backgrounds, perspectives, styles, values, and beliefs to the groups and organizations with which they interact. Our team was challenged with the task of developing specific results for 7 strategies, numbers 2, 4, 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13. Some of which overlap into other areas which you all will see when you go through your program. I would just like to highlight a few of the results that we came up with. We will implement a plan that will teach respect for the uniqueness and value of each person. Capitalize on our diversity by involving students, parents, graduates, businesses, and educational and community organizations in the fulfillment of our vision, mission, and objectives. Assure a nurturing, stimulating, and challenging intellectual environment that will be conducive to learning. Assess the effectiveness of existing diversity diversity initiatives and ensure the infusion of respect for diversity into the school environment and community. We will develop partnerships and identify role models within our community that will expand on our array of learning experience to assist all students in achieving the objectives. Develop ways to improve external and internal communications, and develop assessment procedures to assure attainment of the vision, mission, and objectives. I would just like to finish by saying that no matter how difficult it may or may not be, we must all, as a community, parents, teachers, administrators, students, co-workers, everyone, we should all strive to make sure that we all treat each other with respect and dignity, because there are so many different aspects of everyone. The way that we feel, the way that we believe, the way that we think, our color, our race, our gender, our sexual orientation. These are things that make us all diverse. And I think that's something that we should all try to respect. I thank you very much.
Is it time for the changeover now? Yeah, is it time for the changeover now? Then we can
Yeah, we might as well go ahead and change it.
let him change it now? Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right, if we could change it now, then we'll come back and do the rest. 5-minute break.
5 minutes.
We're ready to begin. We would like to pick up where we left off, and we're going to start with the student life presentation after we get everyone seated. And it's with extreme pleasure that I introduce you to Jeremy Sturcio. Jeremy is one of our students. And Jeremy, when he was a little tyke, he and I had many talks together on the stairwell at Montgomery Elementary. So it's wonderful. I'm seeing spans of students that I've taught over the years here tonight. So, Jeremy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mangano. Welcome back, everyone, members of the school board, administrators, and community. I hope we're all refreshed and ready for part 2 of the ongoing NPTV mini-series, Strategic Planning in the District. Okay. What I'd like to do for you here is give you a brief overview of what student life is, then talk about how our team went about creating our plans to achieve the objectives, and then I'll briefly highlight for you what we came up with. As it was initially articulated, student life was perceived as anything that involves a student outside of the classroom. While we would be conveying a body of knowledge to our students through the classroom, there are many other aspects of an individual's growth and learning that need to be explored and developed in order to create healthy, productive, and responsible citizens. In an effort to provide more focus on the concept of student life, let us consider this analogy. In health class, I learned that there are 3 components to one's health, that is, mental, physical, and social health. Here at North Penn, we have a recognition program that parallels that concept and goes by the title AAA. It's a comprehensive approach to learning that incorporates all aspects of health into this equation. Academics plus athletics plus activities equals excellence. Being a National School of Excellence, North Penn should strive to uphold this as its ultimate goal, and in the words of the vision, inspiring each student to reach his or her highest potential. So let us return to the equation. While academics should be the principal focus of school and are the keystone of North Penn's current and continued excellence, we can see that there are 2 other terms to the equation, athletics and activities. It is here that student life aims to provide opportunities for learning outside the classroom and physical and social development as we aim to produce well-rounded graduates. So that's a brief idea of what we've what we've seen as student life and what it means. Now, in the context of the entire strategic plan, student life is vital to the district's overall success. One of the greatest strengths of the district is its co-curricular program. As our district continues to grow, we feel that it is imperative that we ensure the continuation and expansion of these very important programs. The quality of education at North Penn is not compromised by growth if we manage it responsibly and safeguard the programs that teach and enrich our students. Dr. Bose has stated that we must provide a niche for every student in the district. Providing for our co-curricular programs is vital if we are to accomplish this objective. We cannot overstate our commitment to the idea that all students need to develop all aspects of their personalities and to integrate their academic and physical education with their social responsibilities and personal interests. This is essential to leading the child to a successful and fulfilling adult life. Okay, so with that in mind, our action team set forth with 3 objectives that we had to answer, and you can find these on pages 30 and 31 in your packets. We met weekly from February to May 13th on Monday nights at the high school, and everything that we did was adopted by consensus. But what we first had to do, if we were going to create a good plan, we felt we had to assess what we had in hand. So we assessed the district's current co-curricular program, which we found to be very strong and very good. We broke it down into elementary, middle, and high school levels so that we got all the details in there. And then the plan you see in front of you now is for the entire district across. But we made sure that we hit every area, and we didn't just focus on maybe the high school where you find most of the activities. We made sure we provided for elementary, we made sure we provided for middle, and that was always a consideration, which you'll see in a second, that we had 2 overriding concerns in this process throughout our work, were the need to provide for equal access to opportunities across the district and for prudence in managing the district's funds. Okay, so secondly, our task was to build upon this strong foundation for the future by exploring ways to provide for the 3 objectives to which we were assigned, which were numbers 5, 10, and 11. And I'd just like to make a comment that's coming from the action team that I represent. We believe that these programs or positions which involve costs for the district are justified, and that all suggestions we'd like to let you know were subjected to considerable discussion and deliberation. So let's get right to the meat of it. Objective 5, which is the first one you'll find on page 30, you can read for yourself. This is what we consider to be the crux of our task. Providing for well-rounded graduates with a love of lifelong learning. And if you look at the plans, I'll run down each one briefly and highlight it. Plan number 1 really deals with providing opportunities, athletic teams, activities, not just extracurricular things, but it might include things like assembly programs or enrichment opportunities, speakers. Maybe I know there's a program at the high school where DARE goes to elementary schools. All sorts of things like that we want to work into, things that are not just set aside and laid out in the curriculum. Plan number 2 talks about inculcating students with a concept of service and cooperation to make them better students and citizens for the future, helping each other out, giving something back, that whole notion of helping each other to foster community and work with each other. Plan number 3 deals with leadership and responsibility, helping students become leaders in their own capacities, and giving them an idea of what responsibility is all about, because that's something that we need to be good citizens. Plan number 4 deals with good decision making, which can be very it can be wide-ranging, but some of the things that we had in mind when we thought about good decision-making were making decisions that are in accordance with a person's personal values, identifying consequences, and things such as that. Plan number 5 deals with diversity, the talk of having to incorporate diversity in everything we do and recognizing that there are many different things out there, many varied interests, and it also includes a respect for varied opinions, listening and being respectful, things like that, learning from each other. Plan number 6 deals with organization and goal setting, something that we all need as adults, and I'm sure that even I'm sure that some adults struggle with it. I know I do, is setting plans and goals and things like that and keeping on the timetable. We feel that if students can learn to do this at an early age, they'll be more effective in the future. Plan number 7 deals with respectful and effective communication. If we can teach our students how to do this, not only will they be better off in the workforce, but they'll have better interaction just with friends, things such as that. Respectful and effective communication is something that we need for the future. Moving on to Objective 10, this objective we felt dealt with communications within the district, communicating about student activities and athletics. So our first plan was that we were going to explore ways to improve the dissemination of information. The second plan deals with the development of either a middle school newspaper that the students would run, or a newsletter for the parents, or something that would incorporate both aspects into one thing. That would probably mirror the high school newspaper or the high school newsletter, informing about student activities and also in terms of equal access, providing more opportunities. Plan number 3 deals with communication and coordination. This is that talks about, and you'll find it later in Objective 11, that there's a need for new positions here, but it's talking about communicating and coordinating amongst the schools in the district about what opportunities are available and making sure that all opportunities are available to every student. Plan number 4, when we thought about, as Dr. Magano mentioned, what sort of strengths and opportunities do we have available to us, one of the things that we said when we thought of communication, we thought of North Penn Television, which is right here, as we can see. We want to expand the use of NPTV and just think about new ways, innovations on how to utilize that resource to the best of our abilities. Plan number 5 talks about other methods of informing the community, be it NPTV on the radio, handouts at local businesses, signs up, whatever it may be. Objective number 11 deals with equal access across the district. Plan number 1 talks about students taking precedence over outside programs regarding availability of facilities. And the action team felt that sometimes students don't have equal access to the facilities because there's another community program in there. And we wanted to have students to take priority over other community things using our facilities. When we talk about equal access, when we talk about providing, all of that needs coordination, all of that needs planning, and we feel that at the high school, we need to maintain the position of an athletic director, which is already in place. But we also feel that to coordinate everything that goes on, an activities director needs to be created. Both positions would be full-time. The athletic director already is full-time. But the activities director, which is currently a half-and-half role, half teaching, half activities director, needs to be turned over into a full-time activities director to give them the full range of capacity to carry out everything and to just better the overall program that we have going for us. The third plan deals with equal access, and especially this is a big issue now that we are switching to the 3 middle school scene with Penndale as being a larger school than Pembroke and Penfield. The question was brought up, how do we ensure equal access at a bigger school with better facilities and more resources? And we thought of the position of a full-time athletics/activities, one position director to coordinate activities and things that would deal with student life and opportunity at the middle school level. Plan number 4 talks about the development of an activity period at the middle school level to provide for better exposure at an early age to opportunities and activities to encourage students to get involved and pick something up, explore their interests. And logistics can be worked out, and many things would go into that, and there still needs to be more work done on that, but that's one way that we thought we could get students right into something rather than making, we would reach out to them and say, here, explore something to expand. The last plan talks about financial support to ensure equal access. This is simply that if a student cannot afford a program because they don't have the money to do this or that, to buy the shoes, to whatever. If they can't participate solely for the purpose that they don't have the money, there will be funds there either through a principal's fund or some other layaway in the district, somewhere that they can go and say, I want to do this. The only thing that's stopping me is that I don't have the money, and we would do that to ensure equal access. So in conclusion, regardless of the approach taken, student life must remain an integral component of North Penn's overall success. Thank you.
Suzanne Franks will present the community partnerships piece. And community partnerships is very definitely a part of the vision and mission statement. And we'll hear more about it.
I represent the committee that studied community partnerships, and it was Gail Tatum and I that co-chaired this committee. It was a committee that had 8 very dedicated members, and we also met from February through May every Monday afternoon for at least 2 hours. We had many interesting discussions, and it was actually a meeting that I think a lot of us look forward to each week. I want to start off by just I'm not a teacher, so I'm not going to use the overhead projector. I'm not used to using this thing, so I'm just going to try to summarize for you the highlights of our plan. I don't want to go through each step by step because I think you can kind of read along as I speak, and I will try to highlight what we thought were the important points that came out of our discussions. In the statement of vision, the vision of the North Penn School District is to inspire each student to reach his or her highest potential and become a responsible citizen in a changing society. At our first meeting, all of us were a bit uncertain as to how the role of community partnerships would play in this vision. But the planning team, the original planning team, went on to define our work further in the statement of mission. To ensure that each student has the opportunity to achieve the vision, the North Penn School District will provide a wide range of educational programs and opportunities in a safe learning environment which promotes strong educational partnerships among the school, the home, and the community. So this was one of the 6 original targeted areas that the planning team specifically stated that they wanted to include. We as a committee would like to thank you for your support and the school board for approving this concept. From this, we found our focus, and our job was defined. We must find out what was already working in the district because the district already has in place many successful partnerships. And we must take that information and develop a plan to greatly expand the concept so that more students and community members would benefit. Our plan has at its core the development of a resource bank to aid in matching needs and wants in establishing new partnerships. And it's also obvious, I believe, that this would also help deal with establishing many new diversity partnerships, and it works into the plan that diversity team has come up with. We also defined the ability to focus on areas of special need. One of these we defined as being the middle school junior high area, which we felt was one area that needed more development and possibly special partnership considerations. We laid guidelines to facilitate community service for individuals, schools, and groups. We plan to develop a family school partnership program which would provide information and support to bring about a shared sense of responsibility for all North Penn students. The committee quickly agreed that for these and all of our other concepts to be developed properly, a partnership coordinator was needed. Someone who would have the single charge to work with all schools and representatives in the community to develop partnerships. Our fear is that if this task is added to the task of an existing position, that the benefits would be lost in other work. This really is the most critical point of agreement of our team. For this to have the impact we believe you intended it to have, it needs its own identity unique unto itself. That person must have the single focus of partnerships and possibilities to adequately develop what we have outlined in our plan. We also came to believe that our plan provides the heart and soul of what we hope to achieve as a whole in this long-range planning process. I would like to close by sharing just a portion of our statement of purpose that we as a committee wrote at the end of our task. It defines in a very global sense what we hope to be the result of our work. And this was written by one of our team members. We all had input into it, and she very eloquently put it into words. We believe that the North Penn School District should assume a leadership role by bringing our students and the larger community together, thus providing ways for people to understand public education and each other better. Our students will be the direct beneficiary as we provide opportunities for them to interact with all people representing area businesses, governments, nonprofit agencies, etc. Learning will happen through experience and one-to-one interactions. From these interactions, growth will occur in many ways. Strong, positive partnerships, by their example, can set a tone of cooperation and respect, of caring and of giving. Our students will see themselves as part of a larger community of people joining together in common spirit and common purpose. They will experience a unified caring from the greater North Penn community as residents and businessmen and women work to ensure that North Penn students receive an education which not only provides the basics, but also reflects the feeling that being part of a community means supporting its youth and its future. Our plan is to use our facilities to educate our entire community, with our most important emphasis focusing on the children, for they are our future in terms of real dollars as well as real values and ideals. It is our desire to show our respect for one another and our regard for our children by working together within this school district. Finally, it is the belief of the committee that each of us within the community is indebted to the rest of the community. In gratitude, we wish to instill in our students the importance of listening to, learning from, building upon, and working for the community as a whole. For it is only when the community members serve each other that the community truly becomes viable. Thank you.
Our next presenters will be special education. This is another one of the action teams that Dr. Scherato said was not found in many of the plans across the state. So we were very pleased that that was very much a part of our plan.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Carol Steigelman, and as of a few weeks ago, this is Brooke Heavner. On your sheet, it says Brooke Lalmer. I'm very happy to see a large representation of our committee here tonight. Obviously, I am not one of the co-chair people. Unfortunately, they could not be here. The 44-member Special Education Task Force shared many diverse experiences and opinions on special education. And we are on page 35 in this book. And if I can call your attention to page 39, we will develop ways to improve external and internal communications. This is what I heard from all of the groups prior to this one, and it seems to be a focus that was really important to us at the onset. We realized, because we had such a large group, that information about special education is not out there where it needs to be in the community. We realized that addressing the goals set forth would be an arduous task. Arriving at a consensus of opinion meant we first had to familiarize ourselves with the current special education program in the district. Bear with me. Hold on a second. As you view this list of the existing special education support programs in North Penn, you can imagine how difficult it became to be concise in the wording of our proposal and at the same time considerate of all aspects of the program. Brooke will talk about the group dynamics and how we worked on our tasks.
As you can look at all of these exceptionalities, they vary in range and need, and as each student in special education is developed, they have an individual education program and a plan. And that I made it very difficult in that IEP, the individual aspect, because we're trying to have a plan for the entire district, for all students that come under that umbrella of special education. And they all have varying needs, and trying to come up with a plan that supports and benefits all of them in such a brief plan for us. And it might not seem brief to all of you with your binders there, but to us it seemed very brief to try to gather them all together. We struggled a lot with that. We had 6 strategies and a variety of members coming to equal out the teachers, the community, the parents, and the students. And we all contributed and listened to each other's ideas and struggled with our differing opinions, and were able to really come together with our consensus. We started out with what we felt was maybe more of our simple strategies with the communication aspect, because we all were in agreement of how needy it was to get all of that information out there. As students are identified, parents may be not understand, and they're in need of finding out what's out there. How is my student going to be supported in school? What programs are out there? So we felt the communication really needed a lot of our emphasis. And then we struggled into some of the other strategies with wording and figuring out how all of these can come together. When we would say all exceptionalities, all special ed students. And you'll notice as you read through the plan, some of the plans, some of the ideas under the plan might not seem to necessarily fit for all special ed students. They may seem to support maybe life skills a little bit more, or physical support, or maybe speech and language. It depends upon the need of each student, and as we went through this plan, we opened it up to that flexibility, so that as you pick you're looking at a certain area, you can use this plan to support all of those different areas. When you're looking to maybe enhance the mentally gifted program, you can use some of these same plans as if you're trying to support a life skills program. And we tried to keep that in mind and keep it very broad so that you could fit all of these exceptionalities under there. We felt it was very important, as we listened to some of the other programs, to also talk about class size to help support our students. Identification of our students as early as possible so that they get that support and can get as much support as possible throughout their time here at North Penn. And also the guidance program and how crucial that is to supporting our students in that special ed program. So as you just read through this, keep those things in mind. Please know that we struggled a lot with this. We spent a lot of time. We started out weekly and ended up to bi-weekly and late night meetings to try and get it finished. So I thank you for your time and effort in reading through our plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke, and thank you, Carol.
Thank you both very much. And a very familiar face to all of us who has been at many of our board meetings on behalf of facilities tonight to speak about the much talked about facilities in the North Penn School District is a warm welcome to Dick Warmcastle.
Turn this back into electronic. I joined the ranks of the substitute presenters tonight. Art Wood is also on vacation. Before he left, he asked if I would give a 5-minute overview of the facilities action team. After he left, I wasn't certain whether he had said 5 minutes or 5 hours, because I started having a tough time reducing all that we did in so many meetings and tours to something in 5 minutes. As a result, I wound up with some rather structured notes, which I hope will give you a view of the high points of what we did. Like many of the other teams, we were a group with diverse backgrounds, made up of community members, 2 school board members, and people from the district's facilities department. And as the various issues were identified, and I've heard this from other teams tonight, varying opinions were expressed. However, it was a credit to the group that consensus was reached by the entire team on our final conclusions and our options. In order that we could all work with a common awareness of the district's facilities, 2 Saturday tours were conducted, and along with varying of our evening meeting sites, all of the buildings in the district were visited. School-oriented, we felt we needed some homework, and we received a mountain of paperwork. Number of documents dealing with population projections, the earlier facilities feasibility study, other material on existing facilities. Our regular meetings were also supplemented with presentations by members of the administration on subjects such as the Pennsylvania Economy League's demographic and enrollment projections. We also met with the technology team, recognizing that buildings would have to adapt to many of the needs of technology. Our team split into 3 subgroups which concentrated on the 3 basic strategies that you will see beginning on page 40 in your document. Strategy 8 objective states we will assure a nurturing, stimulating, and challenging environment that is conducive to learning. There are 3 resulting plans from the facilities team. 1, we all recognize the superior maintenance of North Penn buildings and the need to continue this outstanding care and the important part that the building environment plays in quality education. Number 2, the district's highly qualified plant maintenance personnel allow completion of repair, maintenance, and small renovation projects at far less cost than if this work required outside contractors, and this policy should certainly be continued. Number 3, open lines of communication between staff and administration permit implementation of those items which will continue to provide a quality educational environment at all of our facilities. Strategy 10 objective states we will implement a system to ensure that all students have equal access to curricular and co-curricular experiences. The subgroup that worked on this strategy developed a survey form which was distributed to all of the building principals, and the results of this survey led in part to the 4 plans. 1, we need to develop and implement policies which will make all grade levels accessible and in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. 2, meet the community and board requirements for equal access by developing necessary improvement plans. 3, meet the curriculum space needs, particularly with respect to restoration and dedication of art and music teaching spaces at each of the elementary buildings. And 4th, develop and implement a policy to maintain equal access for all district students. Strategy 16 covers a series of plans that project building utilization, maintenance needs, and capital improvements necessary to best support student learning. The district is experiencing tremendous development growth, and based on the population projections, this growth will be most seriously felt at the elementary level. Severe shortage of elementary space appears to be projected for the start of the 1997 school year. The first 3 plans of this strategy offer options which could meet the growing elementary population. 1, it appears that boundary changes may be necessary since growth does not always occur where space may be available. This has always been a highly emotional issue in any community where it has been necessary, and it will require a strong public information program in order to gain community understanding and support. and we have to recognize there may be several such changes required through this period of growth. Number two, modular classrooms may be the only solution to meet the immediate elementary enrollment needs. You will note that there are no dates in the implementation columns in the facilities, many of the facilities plans. But when the board selects the appropriate options, these dates could then be determined. And with respect to the modular solution, it would appear that the board would have to make a decision as early as September if these units would be required for September 1997. Each of these plans must be continually monitored throughout the period of growth until the school population stabilizes and a definite decline is assured. Number three, additions and alterations to some existing buildings take longer planning and construction time and could be a solution to meeting needs further into the 6-year plan. An advantage to this solution could be that selected buildings could provide increased student capacity and at the same time improve needed support facilities such as libraries, cafeterias, and all-purpose rooms. Plan 4 recognizes that with 3 middle schools, there appears sufficient space to house the projected middle school population. The updated facilities feasibility study and continued educational and technical updating projects should be considered for Pembroke and Penfield in order to provide educational programs equal to those included in the current renovations at the Penndale Middle School. Basically, plan number 5 considers the fact that a decision has been made to increase the capacity of the present high school. Plan 6 addresses certain options which may be available to better meet the long-range transportation needs of an increasing school population at a possible reduced cost. Plan 7 references the facilities feasibility study, which is the other large blue book that I see some of you have. This study was done and prepared by the staff of the facilities department. The document will serve as an important resource for determining and continuing the excellent maintenance procedures which the district has maintained for a number of years. Plan 8 offers several options for the undeveloped land currently owned by the district. Finally, there was one area in which there was total agreement by all members of the facilities team. The entire North Penn community can be proud of each of the district's facilities and the way that they have all been maintained. From the newest elementary schools to the oldest building at York Avenue, there has been a commitment from this board and from previous boards to the highly qualified facility staff and the resources required to maintain buildings so well suited to the best possible educational environments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick, very much. And now, to put the whole thing together in terms of the financial package, I would ask Dennis Kelly and Bill Spire, who is our CPA that we have utilized on this process, to give us the bottom line.
Thank you, Dr. Mangano. Somehow, Bill, you and I seem to be the only 2 people who aren't on vacation here in North Penn tonight. I wanted to say this has been a good experience for me. I'd like to thank my co-chair, Chris Krieger from Montgomery Township, and also Bill Spire from Upper Gwinnett Township for all their invaluable help. Since this is my first time really going through the long-range planning process, I also really need to thank Sandy Mangano. Her assistance to both myself and our committee was invaluable. And speaking to my colleagues in other districts, Most of them couldn't give me any pointers because, as was stated earlier, finance has not been a part of the other strategic plans, or at least most of them in the state. I think it's a tribute to the leadership of both this board and to Dr. Bose that they insisted on adding the financial part to this so that we can ensure that we not only have a plan, but a plan that's affordable to the North Penn community. We also need to remember here, too, that this is a plan, that this is not anything that's cut in stone, and that this will be reviewed on an ongoing basis. When Bill Spire talks later, he'll go over some of the assumptions that we're basing this on. This plan can be changed due to changing situations in those assumptions. There's assumptions about real estate assessments. If those don't come true, we can always take this plan and remodel it to fit into what we need. I'd like to begin, I'd like to go over where we actually stand currently with, and where some of our assumptions came from. When you look at this chart, you see that the current budget was stated at the state level as being a budget for the 21st century. If that's the case, if this is the state budget for the 21st century, suburban districts such as North Penn and our surrounding area are in trouble. As you can see from this, our state revenue at $17 million reflects 16.5%, which is down from 5 years ago when we were at 21%. That leaves the local revenue at 82.9%. Our federal, due to our market value aid ratio, we're so low that we get very little federal aid. So that leaves basically the $86 million in local revenue is what's funded through real estate tax. What I want to show you now is visually a pie chart which shows the local revenue at 82.87%. I think when you look at that, you can see the enormity of what the local residents here pay for the education of the community youth. What I want to go to next is a breakdown of our local revenue. As you can see there, our current real estate taxes provide 79.4%, and our interim taxes 1.3%. The rest of it's broken down in very small portions of delinquent taxes, interest, and some tuition for. Excuse me?
That's not percent, that's dollars.
That's dollars. That's what I'm saying. Between the 79.4 million and the 1.3, that's what equals the 82.87%. To take this down even a little further, here's where we stand with our local communities. We range here from a low of, on the assessments, of $467,000 at Lyon Lexington, all the way up to the $83.8 million of Montgomery Township. This also shows the progression of our mills from 91-92. Was an increase of 10 mills up to our current level, 278.5 mills. The average increase then for that period of time over this past 6 years has been 12.9 mills per year. One of the things that's really impeded our growth here at North Penn is the deluge of assessment appeals that have hit. As you can see, from 92-93 up through 1995-96, we've lost almost $13 million in assessments, which translates to almost $3.6 million in actual tax revenue. Taking that down to millage, we're looking at 13 mills that were lost just on the basis of assessment appeals. But despite these, we actually had some growth. Despite these appeals, this year we had a growth factor of 1.4%, which me as your finance director was happy to see, since the preceding year was 0.4%, so we actually tripled our growth. What that shows, though, is the potential of this community, that even losing $13 million in assessments over the past 4 years, we still are experiencing a little bit of growth every year in addition to that. What I'd like to go over now is exactly where we stand in this district in comparison to the rest of the county. What I'm showing you here is a chart on, we call it equalized mills. This, obviously I wasn't a teacher. What this shows is the 21 school districts in Montgomery County ranked by what they equalize the mills to be. Since we all have different values to our mills, this chart equalizes it and shows that the most taxed district in this county is Norristown. North Penn is ranked 14th out of those. It shows.
We're 278.
Pardon?
Aren't we 278? Yeah, it's 240.
We're 278, but not on. This is on the equalized mills, Mr. Mosey. This is equalizing everybody throughout the throughout the county.
He was talking the mills too, that's from 9.
Out of the 13 districts that are ahead of us, 9 of those districts already have the earned income tax. As part of the discussion of our committee on alternate sources of funding, both for this plan and the district in general, this topic came up, and it's one that I think in the future we're going to discuss. I know there's been much opposition to this in the past, but some of our committee members already were paying this tax to other districts, and they were interested in talking about it and trying to see if we can establish exactly what type of percentage of the people in this district are already paying this, and other municipalities and school districts are benefiting from it. When looking at state revenue, we also have to, as I was talking about the decrease from 21% down to 16%, we also have to look at what the equalized subsidy for basic education, which we call ESB. Here at North Penn, on a per-student basis, we're only receiving $515 per student, and that's our total subsidy from the state. You take a neighboring district such as Souderton, they're getting double that, and that also helps to offset the real estate tax. So we more or less get a double whammy here at North Penn. Over the past few years, due to the problems with funding at the state level, the ESB subsidy has been frozen. So in districts such as North Penn that are growing, we're taking a cut every year, where districts that are decreasing both in student population and residents, they're increasing every year based on this frozen level where they're keeping it all the same. On the expense side, what I'd like to go over now, I'd like to show both the community and the people here this evening where we stand comparison on our per pupil cost. As you can see, North Penn is 18th out of the 21 districts in the county at $7,374. This is artificially low for this period because if you remember at this time we still had not settled a teacher's contract. I've gone back and factored in what would happen if we had the contract. That will move us up only to about 17th, possibly 16th, but it looked more like 17th. I think what this shows is that for the amount of money that we do spend at North Penn and the quality education that we provide our students, we're getting the best, if you want to say, bang for the buck that's out there currently. I'd like to show you graphically the rest of the expenditures for our budget. And looking at the expenditure side of the budget, this chart shows that 83% of our budget is really in fixed costs, which includes salary and benefits, of which we have very little control. The biggest portions of our budget this year, salaries were up over $5 million. Our VOTEC tuition was up 21.3%, or $360,000. And we also saw an increase of 29% in student activities, as Mr. Sturcho referred to earlier, because of the excellent program we have here and its expansion into our middle schools. The positive side of our budget is shown in my next chart, which shows that here at North Penn, we still spend 60% of our budget on direct instruction of the students. This compares very favorably with districts not only in Montgomery County, but also in the region in general. Using these factors, our finance team proceeded with to develop the 6-year plan by assigning each one of us to work with the various committees that have spoken here this evening. Everyone on the committee worked as a liaison. What we did is develop some basic assumptions on both salaries, numbers of employees, and student populations. Our student population was taken from the PEL mid-range that we at North Penn have used for many years. What we had asked the committees to do, if they were formulating any new programs that had to do with any of these 3 areas, if they would use our figures so that in reviewing them, we can compare them on a uniform basis. At this point, I'd like to introduce Bill Spire, who will take it from here and go over the plans that we spoke about this evening earlier, and he'll give you the cost for those.
Thanks, Dennis. Is that on? Okay. Well, tonight is the birth of the plan. I guess our department is checkout. So it's time for us to take this baby home, and we're going to have to find out how much it costs. So anyway, I want to remind everybody, this is a projection we're doing tonight, not a budget. Very different. The budget that you see every year is a mandate by your board to the school that says you can't spend more than this. That's not the purpose of this. If they pass this document, it's not going to say that they're required to adhere to this. But I think this is a real useful piece of information to help this board make decisions as they go forward, because they'll be able to find out what the current impact of decisions they're making on the current budget will be in the long run, over 6 years. But in order for us to understand our projection that we put together for you, the way you read a projection is you always go back to the back page first and work forward, meaning you find out what the end result is after you discuss all of the assumptions, and that's what we want to go to. Our task is pretty complicated. We had to go through and get all kinds of abstract information from the entire 10 different groups. We had to go back to your budgets. We had to look at your financial statements, audited financial statements, a whole lot of abstract information, and we had to take it together, and our goal was to come down and to conclude with a simple, understandable way to see the finances of this community for the next 6 years. And I think we've done that. It reminds me of a question I was asked: if baseball is number 1, what are numbers 2 and 3? And to put that, make it real simple, we ask our bean counters like Dennis, and what's the answer, Dennis?
Whatever you want to do.
5. So 2 and 3 is 5, and we're going to come up with a very simple answer for you. Whatever you want it to be, yes. That's right. But anyway, that is true. That is true. But anyway.
That was my answer, Dennis. That was my
But anyway, we have, our first task was we defined the accounting policies of the school district. We went through the audited financial statements, and we decided that we were going to adhere to the financial policy of the school district, which is basically modified cash basis. Our reports have 9 pages on the policies. If you're really interested, you can read it, but we're not going to discuss those tonight. After that, our committee had to determine a baseline, something to work from, to build on from all the committee reports. What we first did was we went to the budget for the school district, for which the board has approved. Get this right. We don't have enough room for the whole thing. And you can see here the expenditure budget was $104 million for next year as approved by the board. From that baseline, we projected over 6 years what those expenses would be. A critical assumption is that we assume that there'll be a growth in your instruction support services of 5% a year. And that basically comes from that your union contract is 3.7%, and you have step increases that also impact the increases. So we wanted to provide a little extra to provide for that, and we put that through the whole 6 years. We don't know what's going to happen in the next union contract, but we took the best guess we took on information that is available today. And as you can see, our baseline goes from $104 million to $127 million over that period of time. And we projected out your base income for the same period. This does not include anything in those plans. It does not give effect to the need for more teachers because of student growth. They were reflected and added to these numbers later. Our next process was, as Dennis indicated, is we gave standard assumptions to all the committees so that they could understand so they're all working on the same consistent information. We put a liaison to each committee. Their job was to try to keep redundancies where different committees would be both asking for a module that could be used for the same purpose. They came back to the committee, and down here, which Dennis didn't point out, what we have done is this is the baseline of employees that we have. We have added all the employees in the 10 plans to the base number each year out, which gives us an indication of what this plan expects, how many teachers we would expect to have through the entire process.
That's additional? That's additional.
No, that's not additional, is that? That's not additional teachers, is it? That's total complement?
No, this would show the base period. This is the current number of teachers, and you see here from 850 to 852 means that they projected 2 additional teachers in the next year. So this would be the total, including the additions. Well, you'll see down here 850 goes to 890, and they project an additional 40 teachers. And we'll get to the composite statement in a minute, so maybe we just hold off. Yes.
Some of that's based on the growth of the district. We tried to keep the student-teacher ratio exactly as it is today. So we increased the numbers of teachers as we went along based on PEL mid-range growth projections.
But that is really just dealing with our status quo outside of the plan, because we have more teachers than that right within technology.
This includes all teachers as projected by the plan, including technology.
I've got 112 listed on my page.
Okay, well, let's get to that
Go
page.
on. Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to know what you're dealing with.
Sure. Again, this was provided to the different group, which is a mid-range PEL study of the students. Down there is just a recap of the modules that would have to be built. That was part of it. That basically came from the facilities plan. There were others originally, but they were deleted from the plan. Now, with all the committees came back, and this is very similar to the budgetary process. This is not the first numbers that all the committees came back to us. Originally, they came back and said, this is our plan, and we came back and told them, well, this is what it cost. And they were asked to go back, but try to make it more economically realistic, and they came back to this number. And believe me, this number was over 100 million when the first time I saw it. So it has, this is not without considerable thought by the committees. Now, also, this is a gross amount. This 73 million includes 12 million, which is the building of an elementary school for facilities, 18 million in that 26 million for, I believe it's an addition to one of the existing schools, and $7.5 million, which is the defeasance of debt for a sale of land. So this is gross. It's not the $73 million is not the net cost, and I'll put this back up in a moment. I do have, here it is. As you can see, there's $38 million projected of sources of funds, which includes the bond issues, which show as expenses on the other chart. So the net cost projected over the period, and this is without the 5% increase, is a $73 million less the $38 million. And you see 40 is the increase for the 1 year. And someone out there had mentioned 181. 181 is adding the additional teachers for each year. So the number on that page that I showed you before was accurate. Okay? 181 is merely the addition of each one of these. Now, you'll be able to go. If you go into the text of the plan that we have, there are 10 plans that mirror this. So you can actually find out. If you have an interest to say, my goodness, where did this come from? You can actually go into the plan, find out exactly where that came from. And if you want to know the exact source, you can go back to the big book that you see people having here. This whole plan is built on layers, big triangle, a whole lot of information, and we keep sifting it down to something that's going to be hopefully very understandable, easy to use, so you can make the decisions to run the school district. Now, we have to pay for it all. And as you see, when we see the plan, we have all the expenses. We've now added the budgetary baseline that we talked about. We now take all the increases as projected by the various committees, add them together, and we say, what do we need to raise in taxes to pay for this? So 79 million, as you can see, as Dennis showed this earlier, is the base year. We go to 89, 97, 100. You'll see this in the full projection that I'll put up next. We have also assumed an increase in assessment. Our assumption that we used was that we assumed that assessment would grow at the same percentage rate as the growth of number of students in the school district. And that means the same number of students per household in the school district. There wasn't a study available other than that. What you will see that over the 6-year period, that's about an 11% increase, or we're projecting about a little higher than the amount that Dennis was talking about. With that, our millage requirements would be as shown at the far end of this chart, which represents on a per year basis 9.44%, 7.35.58. So you'll find there's a lot of good information here that you can actually look at this, make your own decision. Can it work? What makes sense? And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to give you nice, easy information to help run the school district. Now we put all of this together, and we're pleased to present to you our 6-year plan, financial plan, based on all of the action plans of the 10 committees. As you can see, we're going to go from 104 million, we grow to, and I'm a little running out of space here, $139 million. I'm not going to go through all of this, but you'll see that we reference footnotes back into a report, so you can find the source of this. You can go find out if it comes from the base period, if it comes from the increase. We tried to lay it out very simply so people can understand the projections. And now, as promised, we'll make it a little bit simpler. This is our vision of the finances for the North Penn School District based upon us achieving all the assumptions that we just discussed and implementing all of the strategies and plans that you heard earlier today and in the report that's sitting there. And as you can see, revenue and expenses, because we budget, the school district's required to have you cannot budget deficits, so we have made this thing a balanced budget. 104 million to 139, an approximately 33% increase over 6 years. Our number of students will increase from 13,147 to 14,457. I believe that's approximately 13%. Full-time employees grow from 1,325 to 1,373, only about 4% or 3.5%. Cost per student, 7,931 to 9,661, approximately 22%. Increased mills, 278.5 to 354.7, approximately 27%. And then you can see the individual year increases as shown. So I thank you for an opportunity to show this to you, and certainly Dennis and I will welcome any questions at an appropriate time. Thank you very much.
And I knew the answer to your question, but you didn't call on me, you called on Dennis.
You want the test, we'll give it to you. Okay. Because one of the things we did talk about at our meetings was we wanted everybody to think as accountants, and I asked Sandy, if you ask an accountant, what is 1 and 1, and he goes,
Anything you want it to be. And I passed that test. I think from what you have seen tonight presented to you, you have a complete view of the entire package of what a 6-year plan would look like for this district. I think that you realize from the different types of explanations that have been given here tonight that this is extremely intense work, a lot of information, and certainly not easy to digest in 1, 2.5, 3-hour period of time. After all, it took us all from January to now to put it together, working hours upon hours upon hours. The most important piece is how are we going to financially look at this, and is it feasible? And I think the one thing that Bill said to you, Dennis reiterated, myself and Dr. Bose will reiterate the same thing, is that this is a plan. What is in the plan, the financial pieces, whatever we bring forth every year is brought up at budget time. We have projected in the timelines things that have to be done during this next year in order to meet the state requirements for 97-98. You remember I have said to you many, many times that the freshman class in 1997-98 is the targeted class by the state mandate that must be affected by graduation requirements. There are things that we have to do and things that have to be worked on this next year in order to get things in place. But each year, as the budget is proposed, we will look at the timelines, the dates of expectation for all of the things that are in the plan. Some may be delayed, some may be moved up, some may be altered, some may be changed. Keep in mind, this is not a budget that has been presented to you. It is a plan. It is what is feasible within what has been the best look at all of the finances, all of the revenues of the district. I think Dr. Bose will take some questions if they're brief. I think that it is only fair that when we get into the intense questions relative to the plan, that we have meetings where the chair people who have created these are here to answer the questions. But we can take some general questions if you might have them at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Mangano. We know the hour's late, and it's appropriate to applaud now if you'd like. We know the hour's late, and I'll look to Mr. Clemens to determine when to cut this meeting off, but reminding everybody that the board has already indicated it will schedule other meetings for in-depth questioning, answers that might be lengthy and complicated, and all the discussion that would follow. Already some board members, including Mr. Clemens, have discussed those, holding those meetings that might focus on one or two of the strategies rather than all 10, and bring members of the committees to those meetings as invitees to help answer the questions. So also remember, for those of you in the public who sat through all this presentation for the first time, the Office of Community Relations will have these documents available for your inspection, your study during normal hours, and we'll also consider evening hours for those who might find that more convenient. But we first have to know who you are and when you would like to take the opportunity to study this lengthy document and all the supporting data that it contains for these recommendations. And now I'll ask Mr. Clemens if you want to determine, Mr. Clemens, on behalf of your fellow board members, when to bring this evening to a close and how much time to allow for the initial, at least the initial questions that don't require a great deal of detail in responding or time and length in responding.
Thanks.
You've got the burden, Mr. Clemens.
Maybe before we begin to attempt to entertain any questions, we all need to recognize that the hour is 10 minutes to 11 tonight. I have had a chance to talk to the numerous board members, and I'd ask everyone to turn to page 10 in their short form book that they received tonight. Turn to page 10. It's a real nice breakdown of what we did cover tonight in short form. What I'd like to do really is open it up to the board for some discussion on how we could attempt to cover these subjects again. Let's get some dates set. Let's get that finished, get that out of the way, and then if we want to open it up for some questions, fine. But I'd like to be concluded here no later than 11:30 this evening, just so everyone here is aware of my target date. I did talk with Board Vice President Donna briefly at the break, and if you all could maybe get a chance to get out your calendars, we do have an action meeting scheduled for Tuesday morning, August 27th, okay? And that, I hope that that's a meeting that we can pretty much take care of short business items. I would throw out to the board right now, we could try to schedule one meeting during the last week in August, or perhaps we could move right into September and pick Tuesday night, September 3rd, Tuesday night, September 10th. Now keep in mind, Tuesday night, September 10th is the night that we are to discuss curriculum review, I believe the reading review. Okay, so really the 10th, we need to keep that open for the review for that. So the 10th is really out, okay? So again, the 3rd, I did say the 10th, but the 10th will be devoted to the reading review, so we will not talk on long-range planning at all that night. But then keep in mind the 17th, and then we are supposed, according to the schedule, and I believe that's also in this short form, if you turn back to page 43 that the audience received tonight, it says September 19th would be completion of public review and board approval. Donna and I did have a chance to talk about that again at the break, and perhaps what we could do is schedule a special action meeting the 26th, along with an action meeting of the 19th. But what that would enable us one last night, the 24th, a Tuesday, which would give us plenty of nights to go over this, and then a final adoption on the 26th, which we would have a special action meeting. So let me try to go through this. This was all done at the break. We didn't know how tonight was going to go, so I'll give this a shot. What if Tuesday night, September 3rd, we would attempt to do curriculum and instruction, staff development, and assessment, the first three. Then, and again, I'm just throwing this out to the board for discussion right now, okay? We'll see if we can come to some consensus. Then on the 17th, which is a Tuesday night again, we would devote to technology, diversity, student life, and community partnerships. And then perhaps on the 24th, we would use that as our last night for special education, facilities, and finance. Obviously, that night would probably be a pretty long night, but we wrapped it up then with the intent to have a special action meeting on the 26th. Again, this is something Don and I talked about at the break. It's just kind of thrown together, but that's what I have to offer to the board. What are your thoughts?
Mr. Clemens, we have ongoing school business that has to be done anyway, and I'd like to see us separate this state-mandated project away from general school business. By leaving open the 10th to do reading review as we have promised each other in the community, and leaving open the 19th, our generally scheduled action meeting, that allows us to continue ongoing school business and the month-to-month housekeeping that we handle here all the time. The 3rd, 17th, and 22nd,
24th.
I think it's a good idea that you've broken down these planning teams into 3 groups. Finance should go last because I think as we go through each of these categories, they may or may not directly affect finance, and finance should go last as we have, it's such a cumulative total on the impact of this plan before we go to the state, and then have an adoption on this night, a night or two.
You may need to give consideration of how much time would be needed, though, to reformulate it into a document to be sent to the state.
When we send the document into the state, we will be sending in the plans, the big plans, all of the plans. This document that is in the Blue Book, this is the document that goes into the state, along with other pieces of information and backup data which they have to receive, and they have to receive it by the 30th of September.
So we need enough time between when we're committed to it, all adjustments have to be made prior to it.
That is getting a little tight, isn't it?
Friends,
Well, again, I'm open for suggestions.
maybe we should have a meeting in August.
Shreese?
Mr. Clemens, our regular action meeting for September is the 19th.
Regular action meeting, yes, it's the 3rd Thursday, it's
If
the
we
19th.
met twice that week for the purpose of the long-range plan, on the 17th and the 19th, and moved our action meeting for the month of September to the 24th for general business, would that be
The
better?
24th or the 26th?
It doesn't matter.
Either or.
Either or. Would that be better? This way, that would give Sandy and her department and other...
Well, if we would move it, though, I would, I'm thinking, we would, so you're saying maybe the 19th, we would also consider that a work session to work on the final 3? But then we should probably set it for the 24th, Tuesday, that would give Sandy time. That's still tight, isn't it?
That's better than the 26th.
It's better than the 26th, 2 days.
Especially if we're just wrapping.
Can I,
Yeah, let's get some dialogue, I'm open.
We definitely need some more time to allow the community to get some input. I guess right now I'd like to find out what we intend to accomplish at each one of these additional meetings that we're talking about. Because it sounds like, are we asking for a re-presentation of what was done tonight for the purposes of our asking questions? Or can the board formulate the questions? Because again, we're talking about our schedules, plus the people that presented, plus the people that provided input into the accomplishment of those individual plans to get them back here over and over again. And I'm really trying to find out what we're trying to do as a group to allow both ourselves to have our unanswered questions answered and allow the community to comment on what they've seen. So I'm really not quite sure what 3, 4, 5 meetings are going to accomplish unless we have a format for what we want to do.
I think you make a good point, David, and Tom, I was going to suggest that it's nice to, maybe lump these together, but I think when we have more time to read this in more detail, perhaps we will not, there might be 1 or 2 areas we might not have to bring people in to answer any questions. Or they could be something of a nature that Dr. Mangano can answer. They could be just rather rudimentary.
Does anybody
I
think?
agree with David in that regard, that we may not have to go through all 10 areas.
Maybe we just need
there
to
any-
schedule time slots.
Yes,
Maybe
yes.
for Tuesday night, the 3rd,
Right.
we're gonna block out 7:30 to 11:30
And then
or something
perhaps
like
the
that.
board can, make recommendations to Dr. Bose or Dr. Magano, what areas we would like to discuss those particular nights.
I'm assuming that you're looking for explanation as to
Yes.
why people decided to
Yes.
put this into the plan.
Yes.
And the backup information.
Justification.
So you're looking for the justification for
Yes.
why that was put in there.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's what you're
Yes.
looking for.
One of the things that I considered, I mean, as busy as we all are, how long would it take each one of us to go through the detailed document to come up with the kind of questions that we might want to present to Dr. Mangano to say, these are the major areas of concern, and then have a meeting to address those questions that we provided in advance without reviewing an entire plan in its entirety, and allow the community to do the same type of thing, present those questions to Dr. Mangano so that they could be answered in a night of pre-prepared questions, and those people that would be available to answer those questions for us for further justification.
Plus, there's a number of co-chairs that are missing this evening, which I think.
Well, again, scheduling is always
critical.
going to be a problem
Sure.
because there are a large number of people involved in each one of the action plans. So more or less what I'm saying is that if we can come up with our own questions, allow Sandy to prioritize them and get the people together to answer them, and allow the community some time to do the same thing, that we might wind up with fewer nights, but specifically directed to the major concerns
I
or
don't think
questions.
it's a matter of prioritizing. I think it's a matter of Sandy perhaps checking for duplication. Because because I don't like anyone prioritizing questions. If we ask a question, it's a valid question.
That was more probably not the right word to use, but I'm saying if there are 15 or 20 questions on a single topic,
Yes.
then it says
That's what I'm
this is a
saying.
major issue
Redundant.
and we need more people here and more time to devote to the answering of those questions.
Right.
So priorities is not the right word. Perhaps the number of questions and the types of questions might say we need more time to discuss this, but at least we'd have the top numbers of issues that we need to address.
One thing I know that did not happen publicly or privately for this board, what this board needs, is a very strict and detailed understanding as to what our obligation as a board is, aside from complying with a state mandate. I know this board is not clear as to legal ramifications of the finance piece. Is this board and future boards obligated to the finance piece? Are their hands bound? We keep hearing tonight that it's just a plan, it's just this, it's just that. But as I said, one of the presenters said this evening, perception is everything.
I said
This plan can be perceived as something this board is expected to do, and if we don't do it, then we're bad people. That's not fair.
And I think you make a very good point, and I think we have to make sure that the board, the staff, the community know and understand that what this is and what the state has asked us to do is to develop a long-range plan for 6 years that is flexible and adaptable to the needs of the community. And that financial picture that was presented to you tonight is not a budget. That has to be reaffirmed. That is not a budget. We as a staff have a responsibility to look at every one of these plans and every year take a look at the implementation date. Prepare that budget as we would any other budget. Bring that to the board for consideration, for your approval for that year. It is important that this is really affirmed up front, that what was presented financially is not a budget, but the concepts and the ideas in the plan give us a beginning point and an ending point of where we need to go. The state requirements for curriculum and instruction, assessment, and staff development are very clear. For example, law, not school code, requires us to attend to the induction piece, which we have no choice in. We have got to provide induction. If you look at that piece of this in your plan, you'll see that we have put that into a more realistic view financially of where we should be in this district related to induction. But I think that the way the concepts are laid out to you, beginning in August, which we are in now, in order for us to really implement any of this for your budget consideration in budget time, normal budget time, committees have to be up and running to really prioritize and really look at the things that need to be done. Curriculum and instruction, assessment, and staff development, very key. If you look at the technology piece, for example, there are things in that first year, which would be this next year, that we have to address before we can really even impact the budget with a lot of technology pieces. Guidelines, for example, taking a look at facilities, as Dick Wormcastle has expressed and as was expressed by Joe Maglotti. We really have to look at the total picture. So there's a lot of getting prepared for what we're going to do for the 97-98 year and the budget that we're going to put forth for you. So this is a skeleton. This is a roadmap.
This plan is sent to the state.
Yes.
And when it comes up next year for review and we skew from this plan.
That's fine.
What happens?
Nothing.
An amendment or an addendum sent to the state?
No, if you'll look at the page 43 of your plan, the booklet, you'll see that the revisions to the state in the year 1999 to 2000, that's your mid-year review. Dr. Bose and I just received the mid-year review criteria that has just come down from the state. A school district has the obligation to revise and review a plan as appropriate depending upon the needs of the district at that time. And all we do is submit those revisions to the state. We say, this was accomplished, this couldn't be accomplished. This is where we're at. But I believe what Dr. Bose has set forth and has directed is that there will be an annual review and an annual update of where we are with every issue on this plan done in an evaluation process, which I believe was reaffirmed by Dave Decker when he laid out part of the assessment plan. So it is the intent of the administration to come before the community and the board on an annual basis with an update and review that would parallel the budget process. All the state asks you to do is to have a plan. And recognizing that that is flexible and adaptable to the needs of the district, and how then we adapt it is depending upon our district. And all we do is submit that. You're not bound to anything in here that isn't workable for that year, for that budget.
Let's really try to settle our dates. Let's come to a consensus on that.
Sandy, when it comes to committees redoing plans, suppose the board, and I'm looking at the timeline here, if the board opts not to go along with part of these plans and wants them revised, what's the timeline for that? Does it have to go back to the committee, or who will do the revisions of those plans?
I think it depends upon what is being presented. I think that you have got, in many cases this year, where a lot of the work, the guts to this diaphragm here, the parameters here, need to be worked on. And I think that we should allow that process to occur. And I think that the key to what will be accepted will be on a regular annual basis by the budget, as in any curriculum review. As Carol's curriculum for English Reading Language Arts is coming before you, you will have an opportunity to review that, to accept that as a part of what the curriculum piece is going to be. If you look in your full plan, you're going to recognize that the curriculum review cycle is different from what it has been. And that for the first time, we're going to have and hope that all curriculum will be reviewed over the 6 years. If we start delaying that, then we're going to be off schedule in terms of all of the things that will impact curricular changes.
Yeah, my purpose in that is that, so Bill and I, if there are going to be changes made, get a chance that we have sufficient time to get them redone in order to get the document in on time.
See, it does have to go
It looks like a gargantuan task, and it is. But to your credit, you have to recognize that you're going to attack it incrementally. Setting out the meetings before you gives you now reading time for 2 or 3 topics. the opportunity to interact with people from those committees who are the major authors or the idea shapers of the commentary you have to study before that. The public will have the opportunity to address issues and ask questions that you might not have thought about, because there will be the opportunity before each of these meetings, if you decide to go with a schedule or one like it, to prepare. And the size of the task is overwhelming, but if you attack it incrementally, it's manageable. The important thing to remember is, and it's beginning to sound like a cliche, it's a plan we're required to adopt, but it's also a plan that's subject to all the checks and balances elected public officials would want, and the primary one will be the annual budget that you approve that supplements or initiates or underwrites and sustains any part of the plan that has to be financed. The important thing is stay on the deadline that we're trying to meet, so we do our part in complying with the law, and recognize that you still have the final authority as a locally elected board of school directors to make all the critical decisions, including the budget and including subsequent revisions to the plan as it comes to you annually. You might change your whole way of thinking about planning. It's the first plan the school district has ever had of this nature. And it's sophisticated, it's complicated, and you owe it to yourself to take as much time as you can and receive as much input as you can in deliberating what you believe will serve the children of this school community best. And that's something that you can only do incrementally. You can't take it all on at one time. You can't individually understand it all without your cohorts' support and cooperation as you try to understand it and to become comfortable with it and make those adjustments you think are in order.
Mr. President, could we just at least select dates? I understand what David's recommendation is as far as to minimize our time. I would suggest that we do establish dates. As someone who was representative of this board on finance, I'd like to bring us back to reality. If we move forward with a plan that we're unsure of, we could find ourselves revising this in the very first year, because the first year of this, 97, 98, does include $31.7 million of new spending. So it's not like we've got a great deal of time and distance before some of these big dollars are expected to kick in, and I'd like it to be at least close to the intent of this board when we do submit it to the state. We're dealing with it's a very serious document, not only in dollars, but also in the direction of the school district. We're going to be sending people off right away to start to implement all this. And I certainly don't want to have us in a situation where people invest time, money, emotions, and then be put in the position of having to pull the rug out from under it. That's why finances were even accounted for in here, was to help prevent that from happening. So if we could just schedule the dates, and then you can work out how you want to do the logistics and the timing, the topics or what have you can be done at another time after the close of this meeting.
Well, is there anybody here that feels we should attempt to meet in August other than the date that we have for the action meeting?
It wouldn't be a bad idea, because it would take some of the pressure off of September. And it's quite possible that we might, get enough done in the first couple of meetings. We might not have to schedule an additional meeting in September.
Carol?
I know that the curriculum is scheduled to this is our phase one report.
Right.
It would help if we could move that to October. Prepared to go forward in September. It would help.
Well, I thought curriculum and assessment and staff development were the three mandates from the state.
This is outside.
No, this is outside of the long-range
Oh, I'm
plan.
sorry.
Right.
Okay.
Was
And we-
even begun before we began to
Okay.
plan.
And we wanted to try to get to it this summer. We have it scheduled now for September, and we'd be pushing it back one more month.
Carol, how much of that is actually integrated? Since you led both committees, isn't there basically an integration?
There's integration, but the two right now are just separate.
Okay.
But there's a new component of the foreign language that's to be started immediately. And I'd like to hear about it from your department first before.
Don't forget that that's part of the goals one curriculum.
But foreign language doesn't come under that, Jermaine. That would be the foreign language department, and that would be a foreign language committee that would need to be up and
So
running.
it would not come under.
No, no. But that would help if we could, maybe if we could use that September 10th.
Well, it's a good idea if Dr. Teresi believes that she can delay that, and she obviously would suggest it if she didn't. It gives you another month without that obligation. You could even use that evening.
Well, let's go ahead and as far as August, unless anyone has a real problem with it, I'd rather we not attempt anything in August. That we have that morning action meeting on the 27th, and that's it for the rest of this month. Then we begin the Tuesday night after Labor Day, Tuesday night the 3rd. That's our first night. As far as an agenda, I'll certainly it'll be forthcoming. I'll talk with board members, and we'll put an agenda together, and we will get that out to you. And we won't necessarily stick with the premise that we need to work on, revisit every area. We'll see. Okay. So let's pick a time.
And
Tuesday night the 3rd.
And in conjunction with that, Tom, might be a good idea, as David suggested, that if we can, submit our questions in advance.
Mm-hmm.
That would be very helpful.
Right.
That would be helpful.
So our first meeting will be Tuesday night, September 3rd at 7:30. Okay? Now, do we want another meeting that week?
No.
No. We move on to the 10th. Pardon me?
Take the 10th.
Then we move on to the 10th. Thanks to Dr. Teresi. We could have the 10th to key in again on the long-range plan.
And 17th and 9th.
Then we have the 17th as one more night, that we can talk about the long-range plan, but then with an intent of that we could adopt it the 19th.
And our regular board meeting then moves to the 24th.
I don't know. I guess I was thinking that maybe we could do on an action meeting on the regularly scheduled action meeting of the 19th. Perhaps we could adopt the plan and take care of all other business.
As long as
If not,
it's just to approve
If
it.
not, then we'd have to reschedule the.
Right. That gives us 3 full nights of discussion,
Possibly.
all on Tuesday nights, again, with the intent of the 19th, that the 19th would not anticipate any discussion. That would be the night of the vote. Maybe questions or comments on the vote, but not any lengthy discussion that night.
And the 24th to the 26th is nothing, right?
Well, there's nothing scheduled, no.
Well, you probably would have a good idea on the evening of the 17th if you need the
Right.
19th.
If we need,
Right.
right.
For more committee work.
And then and the last we would go to would be the 24th. I think
Right.
Sandy had asked for that time. I mean, that doesn't give her much time, but 24th would be if we would have to schedule a special action meeting for the 24th. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 4 work sessions if needed. But hopefully we could do it in 3 with the intent of an action meeting on the 19th. What's everybody think about that?
That's all fine. For the sake of the public, Tom, this is a very big document, and certainly they need this as opposed to the summary version if they really want to inform themselves well enough to come to any opinions and questions. I know it's probably been assumed that people could come in and sit in a room or sit somewhere and look through this, but I think as we each know, this is going to take a considerable amount of time, and it would be, someone would probably have to come back and visit about 5 or 6 times. Perhaps we could leave it open for the administration to perhaps come up with a system, whether it's a sign out and return, or a deposit and return, or something. But I really believe that there has to be something better to accommodate the needs of the community, to look through this document than to force them, to spend every minute that they can devote to this review.
Well, certainly, Mr. Shear, we begin by publishing this schedule.
Thank you.
By
I was gonna ask you.
identifying the nights, we'll talk about only limited sections of it, so no one would have the burden of trying to tackle the whole thing in one sitting.
But this is an awful lot for someone
is.
to try
Certainly is.
to look on a, where they have to sit right in here within our hours in order to be able to digest it, and yet it's all very relevant to everyone, whether you're a taxpayer or a parent or a member of the staff in the community. And yet I know it's also a lot to mass produce, so, but perhaps something could be worked out on a loaner basis.
We will be flexible.
Okay, great.
And perhaps we should allow some time at that special action meeting in August, that perhaps we could talk a little bit so we know where we're going and where we're going to begin on Tuesday night the 3rd. So we need to dialogue amongst ourselves and to the administration over the next few weeks. So again, when we do meet on the 27th of August, we know which course we're charting, or what we're attempting. Sharice?
Mr. Clemens and Dr. Bose, I thought I would make another suggestion for the access of this document. I personally would like to see a copy of this document in each one of our school libraries. I think that would be a good way for members of the community to check the document out for 3 days, 4 days. Most people in the community have a specific area or two that they're particularly interested in. But I think having copies of this document, not only in our schools, but perhaps some of the public libraries that service our area, would serve us in even a better capacity to make sure that we generate this document to the greater good of the public's interest. So I just wanted to make that suggestion. I agree with Mrs. Shear. I think we do have to have some kind of checkout system here at the administrative offices, but I think it's imperative that we extend ourselves.
September when they open.
Is that any problem to get that?
We can certainly explore that. The one glitch that occurs to me right now is that the professional staff does not return to the schools, except for the principals, until the day after Labor Day.
Well, yes.
So what we might do, Mrs. Krieger, is maybe present several copies to the public libraries for checkout and usage.
When is the first day of school, Dr. Bose? Excuse me for...
The Wednesday after Labor Day.
That's the 4th, right? So we would only have had one meeting in regards to this. It would still serve our need to provide a 30-day public.
That's required.
It's a requirement.
Judy was just saying, what if we put them could we put them in the main office? The principal and secretary should be there.
Either the library, the office, or
But we do have some of our summer libraries right now. We have our summer libraries.
the summer libraries are still open too.
Any board
We
members?
will look at every available opportunity, and we will publicize and disseminate that information.
Okay, can we get them out by Friday?
How about Monday?
How about Monday? Okay, by Monday. Okay, Donna?
Mr. President, I want to bring something to your attention and to the community's attention, and that is the budget under which Dr. Bose and Dr. Mangano operated this review. When this board took office in December, the new board, it was said then that we would never have a review or a project go forward without a budget attached to it. And Dr. Mangano was the first administrator assigned to a budget with a review responsibility. She was given X number of dollars, and there should be, everybody should have the sheet of the long-range planning proposed budget, planning year 95-96. And Dr. Bose and Dr. Mangano are under budget by $12,000 to their credit. I think some of these dollars need to be allocated for an appropriate thank you to, in forms of certificates or letters or whatever, to those that participated and volunteered for this plan. But obviously she's going to be under budget by about $10,000, all done and said. So I think this is a a matter of success and that it was assigning a budget to an administrator on a project that was complied with and complied to our benefit. So I thank Dr. Bose and Dr. Mangano for seeing to this, and I know they kept monthly tabs on this budget.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to get close to wrapping up tonight. I'd like to recap some things. Again, for the public, for our audience, we do have a meeting scheduled for August 27th in the morning at 7:30. I would say
7:45.
7:45. Stand corrected. Okay.
He's moving it up.
7:45. But really, I would say that's when the public's going to know where we intend to go for the Tuesday night following that. So on Tuesday night, let me get my September here. The general public, if you really want to know how the agenda is going to look, I would say if you would come in here on Friday, August 30th, that the administrative office should be able to let you know on exactly the format, how it will be set up for Tuesday night the 2nd. I'm sorry, Tuesday night the 3rd. And then, as I stated earlier, we'll go the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th. Hope to have an action meeting on the 19th. If we're not finished, we will continue the work session on the 19th with a final action meeting on the 24th. Does everybody get those dates? We did say that there would be an audience of citizens tonight. I would ask that if there are any comments that you would limit your time. I would ask that you would direct them to Dr. Bose and to Dr. Mangano. I'll open it up for an audience of citizens before we adjourn.
They're all worn out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments of the board?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion, second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.